guys born from the union of a poor ice mage and a hybrid, a wolf girl. She finds a medicinal plant and rejoices at this, saying that she is very lucky today because her family manages to survive by selling medicinal herbs, for which the girl hunts in the snowy fields, so poverty does not cause them any particular problems. The girl, putting the grass in the basket, says that she will give it to her mother because it is useful for pregnant women. Suddenly, the half-wolf hears someone laughing and gets scared. 3 wolves pay attention to her and, pointing their fingers at the girl, begin to mock her. The little creature starts to tremble with fear. But the boys continue to tease the girl, and one of them asks if she went out to nibble some grass. Another asks if she is a vegetarian. The third one insists that she can't even hide her ears. The purebred wolves insult and treat the main character cruelly. One of the guys throws a hard object at her head, causing the half-breed to start bleeding. But her offender doesn't seem very worried, stepping on the herbs that the main character was collecting for her mother. When she tries to lift what she spent so much time on, the wolf asks what's wrong and whether her legs are holding her back from fear. He wants to hurt the girl again, but she unconsciously defends herself and thereby hurts her offender. Looking at her hand, the main character notices that the grass she was holding has turned to ice. The wolf is furious at being wounded and asks how the mudblood dares to raise a hand against him, but the little creature screams at him not to come any closer because one more step in that ice flow. But the guy doesn't let her finish her sentence and starts laughing, asking his friend if he saw it. He also asks, what's the use of stupid ice magic in the lands where it's everywhere, and maybe the girl is acting stupid because she's only half wolf. The wolf approaches the girl and violently throws her against a tree. At the moment of impact, an unknown image flashed in her head. There was a human soul in it, and the little creature realized that this was her past life, and at the same moment she remembered the novel that she loved to read. The main character of Little Red Riding Hood was the leader of the half-breed dragons. She met a half-breed wolf during the war with the wolves, and he asked for his salvation because he wanted to bring his older sister back to life. Little Red Riding Hood took a liking to the pleading boy and made him hers. Lying on the bed with a book, the girl claims that this is exactly the kind of story she wanted to read and praises the author, saying what a beautiful look the attractive guy with ears has. As the novel progresses, the half-white-haired wolf gradually gets used to Little Red Riding Hood. The main character really liked the hero of this novel, who cried sweetly, and she dreams of seeing it in reality. But now that her dream had come true, she didn't look very happy. The girl couldn't believe that she had been reborn in the novel that she had loved so much in her past life. Realizing that this place was the world of Little Red Riding Hood, she quickly jumped up from her seat, knocking her offender down, and ran away. The same one shouts after the little creature to stop and threatens to catch her. Only half the wolf associates the author with a madman, although she herself said that she wants to see it in reality. At home, the girl's mother is waiting for her daughter, Ava, telling her unborn son, Zeon, that until his older sister comes, they won't see a warm dinner. Ava recalls the events of the novel and realizes that the main character is her unborn brother. In the novel Little Red Riding Hood, where humans lived together with half-breeds, half-wolves, and half-dragons, had a strong hatred for each other. The feud began when a wolf stole the heart of a dragon's head. Having lost the heart, which she wanted to give to her lover, the head died because she could not control the power that overwhelmed her due to anger and grief. According to legend, Little Red Riding Hood's brother also had only one heart and eventually died because he was unable to control his power. She blamed the wolves for this and organized a purge in the north. In this novel, Eva was the main character's sister, who was put down like a dog by Little Red Riding Hood. Standing with an axe, the main character associates the author with a madman because she already had a difficult childhood and her future will be bleak. We think about escaping because the girl does not want to fall into eternal sleep. The main character's mother hears a strange sound on the street and decides to see what it is. When her mother asks her what is happening, Eva says that the wolves damaged their house and said that if the family does not leave, they will be killed. Eva comes to the decision that she cannot allow the meeting of the two main characters, and for this, she must leave the house, keeping her reincarnation a secret in order to protect everyone. The mother hugs her daughter and reassures her that if they go deeper into the forest, It will be safer there, and she will take care of her daughter. But someone seemed to laugh at the plans of the main character, because after the birth of Zion, the mother became worse. There was no wolf nearby who could help deliver the half-breed. Holding her daughter's hand, the mother claims that good things happen to good children, so instead of hitting someone, you should be kind to them. Eva looks at her mother with tears in her eyes. The white-haired lady tells her daughter that she is sorry and falls into eternal sleep. The main character cannot hold back her tears and understands that from now on, this is her reality. Both parents have abandoned them, so the girl herself will protect Zion at any cost. After many years of living deep in the forest, Eva stumbles upon a little girl lying in the snow and wonders what a child is doing in such a place. The main character notices that the girl has a fever and hopes that someone else will find and help her. But remembering her mother's words that good things happen to good children, she decides to help anyway. Either she felt sorry for the girl left in the cold, or her mother's words had an effect. But Eva picked her up and carried her home, not understanding what consequences this would lead to. A couple of days later, the main character is met by her younger brother. The older sister asks him if everything was okay and if strangers came. The little half-wolf answers that everything was okay. The older sister strokes the boy with white hair on the head, saying how smart he is, and asks if the girl she found in the snow woke up. But Zion sadly replies that she has been sleeping for a long time and thinks that the girl has not yet rested. But 3 days have passed. Eva sends her little brother for cold water and a towel, saying that it is most likely because of the heat. But even the best herbs don't help the sick baby, and taking her to the hospital will be difficult given their circumstances. The main character lies down on the bed next to the girl and thinks about the correctness of her actions. But leaving the child there was also dangerous. Eva places her hand on top of the sick girl's hand and apologizes for not being able to help her anymore. The girl comes to her senses at the touch of her savior. Eva asks how she is feeling, but when the child opens his eyes, the main character notices that they are red like rubies, and in this world, only one race has red eyes. At that time, the younger brother returns with water, and Eva hides him behind her back. If the girl remembers correctly, after her death, the one who took Zion was the main character of Little Red Riding Hood. In the novel, Little Red Riding Hood asked the guy who she was to him. He said, while crying pitifully, that the girl was his patroness. Eva hears those same words now from the little girl she saved. She claims that calling her patroness is a bit over the top and is being slick, and that if this girl really is Little Red Riding Hood, then why did she end up in the north so early? After all, in the original story, their first meeting took place when they were adults. The cross-eyed lady is greasing herself whether the course of events has changed. From behind her back, her brother sticks out, but Eva tells him not to show himself and pushes him back behind herself. The little half-wolf doesn't understand why he can't see her and asks if they can talk later. The main character understands that if they meet now, everything will end as in the original story, and tells Zion that she might get scared, so he should wait outside. The girl, sitting on the bed, apologizes to her patroness for saying this only now and thanks her for saving her. Eva says that this is nothing, because that act was right. The young lady was worried, but the little girl was fine. The main character asked herself if she thought the girl was dangerous, because while the child thought that if she and Zion did not see each other, her plan would continue. The survival plan in this crazy story is to buy a castle, but not like the one described in fairy tales. For their safety, Eva would like to live in the human world. Only half of the wolf remembers her father, because intermediaries help only those wolves whose identity is known to enter the country. No one will let poor commoners without a name in. But in any world, nothing is impossible if you have money. So her ambitious goal is to buy a castle with Zion and move to the world of people. That's why the young lady memorized the herbal medicine book her father left her and saved money by selling valuable herbs. However, she didn't know that the events of history were mixed up. If she returned Little Red Riding Hood safely and without incident, only time would separate her from a happy ending. The main character already imagines how brightly the sun will shine for her in the human world, but her thoughts are interrupted by the girl she saved, who asks where she is and who she is. Eva is shocked by what she heard and asks what Little Red Riding Hood is saying. She hopes that the line doesn't mean that, and she thinks that the author couldn't have done that. But the little girl says with annoyance that she doesn't remember anything. The main character in despair bends down to the floor and curses the author. Then she asks if it's true that the girl doesn't remember anything at all. But in response, she hears that the child only remembers that she was hot. It seems that something happened to Red Riding Hood before she lost consciousness, but Ava wonders if that's why she lost her memory. She already imagines the scene of telling the girl that her name is Rachel, and she is a half-dragon warrior who controls fire, and her brother is the ruler of the South, and now she can return home. She can't say for sure, and therefore wonders whether she should take the baby there herself. But this option is immediately ruled out, since for a wolf to go to the lands of dragons is akin to suicide. The child apologizes and claims that she cannot pay her savior in any way. Ava says that it is not a problem, and the little one does not need to be paid. But the girl claims that she really wants to thank her patroness. She asks if she can stay until her memory returns. And the main character already hears the sound of her plan being carried away into the distance, followed by her life rolling into a pit of poverty. At that time, the knights are running around the forest looking for Little Red Riding Hood. Their master asks if they have found it, but they answer that they haven't yet. The man asks what they are doing anyway. A black-haired man with ruby eyes orders his servants to find the girl immediately or lose their heads. He silently asks himself where Rachel is. Ava is walking with Little Red Riding Hood through the market when a little girl addresses the main character as Madame Patronne, and she says that Rachel can sleep with her sister. Then the girl asks the Patronne sister where they are going, and she answers that they are going to see a doctor and buy some clothes. And then the little lady asks why they need to hide their faces. But in response, they hear that otherwise they will catch a cold and anything can happen. Ava understands that this is a stupid excuse, like those in the novel Little Red Riding Hood. A pleasant-looking man with purple hair approaches the girls and greets them. The main character asks why he came so late, because he said he would bring good goods today. There is a secret alley near the square that few people know about. Eva sneaks in here to sell herbs to her regular customers. A man examines the goods and sees that they are of good quality. Firegrass grows only in mountainous areas and easily ignites, emitting a red flame. The buyer asks how much he can buy it for. But hearing the price of 10 gold bars, he is shocked and asks why it is so expensive. The main character asks what's so surprising about this, because it's a top-quality fire herb, and she won't give a discount even if he buys it in bulk. During the transaction, Eva has to hide her face and change her voice so as not to reveal her identity. Otherwise, she will be looked down upon, at least because she is a girl. However, only half the wolf claims that there is a way to buy her much cheaper, and the man is interested in what this way is. Eva suggests that he examine the girl near her. The buyer looks at the baby and asks who she is, and hears in response that it is the seller's sister. But the man continues asking questions and asks why the merchant brought her here. But Ava tells him to do what she asks, because he is a doctor. The stranger greets the girl and asks her name, assuring her that everything is fine and she should not worry. Placing his hand on the child's forehead, he asks the little girl if she is an obedient girl. After the examination, the doctor clarifies whether Little Red Riding Hood said that she does not know why she lost consciousness and that she does not remember anything. The main character, adjusting Rachel's scarf, says that she is not feeling well now. The stranger is not sure, but the consequences of the injury seem serious to him. In such cases, patients usually regain their memory within a couple of days. The man asked what exactly happened to the girl, and moreover, her temperature is unusually high. Ava says she had a fever a couple of days ago, so maybe it hasn't gone down yet. The doctor begins to suspect the main character because a child has disappeared in the southern region. The captain's younger sister, only half the wolf understands that he has already figured out who she is. The stranger asks if she knows about the relations between the North and the South. I scream that of course she knows, because she is also a wolf, and it would be strange if she didn't know, and asks if it concerns her. The man claims he doesn't know what the trader is getting, but he must be careful and leaves. Eva thinks his reaction is quite expected, and she needs to quickly return the girl to where she belongs. After all, if this continues, the dragons will finish off the main character. Rachel worries about her patroness, who suggests going home and asks what the little girl would like for lunch. In response, She hears that the girl will do anything if Eva cooks it. The lady with white hair notices that the aura of the Little Red Riding Hood is incredibly cute and encourages herself that everything will be fine, and the girl will definitely not kill her patroness. The girl looked at the shelf of one of the stalls and asked what kind of thing was there. The main character answered that it was a dream catcher, and it helps to catch nightmares. Rachel's gloomy red eyes reminded Eva of the plot of the novel, where Little Red Riding Hood, having lost her only older brother, never slept peacefully again. As soon as she closed her eyes, the same nightmare began to torment her. Only after meeting Zion was she able to overcome the pain and suffering. The main character asks if the girl wants a dream catcher. She tries to refuse because she doesn't want her sister to spend money on her, but Eva tells the girl to stand still, and she goes and buys this thing, after which she gives it to the little girl, saying that from now on, she will only have good dreams. Rachel thanks her patron sister, and when she asks if they will go home now, the Little Red Riding Hood, with a sincere smile on her face, answers yes. In this troubled time, Eva, without realizing it, became the savior of the heroine who would finish her off. Eva comes home, where her brother and Little Red Riding Hood meet her. The main characters run up to her and ask how the day has come and how many herbs she sold. The white-haired lady talks about her successes and says that today she also stopped by the market on the way home. She tells the children that they are so cute and asks if they played. Zion replies that he can now help the main character braid her hair. She replies that she will wait and whispers, asking if her brother showed his ears to Little Red Riding Hood. He did not do this, and she was worried about the thought that the girl still does not suspect anything. But judging by her reaction, the white-haired lady concluded that their secret was not yet known to the Little Red Riding Hood. The moment Eva decided to take Rachel under her wing, they gave her a new name, Ruby. The little girl claims that she can braid her hair too, and the main character says that she will expect hairstyles from her too. Then she says that it is time to cook dinner and asks the children to clean the house. Although the white-haired lady has read novels where the name of Little Red Riding Hood is written, she cannot simply use it in communication. The main character is happy that the children got along and notices that Ruby's eyes shine like rubies and considers it very beautiful. Eva, having prepared the food, wishes bon appetit. After they sat down at the table, Robbie asks the main character to give her hand. Zion is surprised and asks his sister why the girl eats only cold food and why they hold hands at the table. But the thing is that those who are vulnerable to the cold, like she and Zion, gravitate towards warmth. And food is no exception. When the lady with white hair served the baby hot food, she looked a little worried. The main character thought that she was tired of eating the same thing for 3 days in a row, but Little Red Riding Hood said that everything was fine. Eva was a little upset by Rachel's sad expression, but when she saw that the girl had eaten everything, she calmed down. However, that night, the heat from the food combined with her own unusually high body temperature, causing her to become ill. The protagonist thought about the ferocity of the fire element in dragons and blamed herself for not realizing it sooner. Fortunately, exposure to cold during the day cooled her down, and she quickly recovered. Eva answers Zion's question by saying that Ruby hasn't developed a fever yet, so she can only eat cold food, and pats the baby on the head, telling her to eat her fill. The brother starts to get jealous of his sister and asks what about him. The white-haired lady strokes her little brother's cheek and tells him to eat more too. In the morning, while the children are still asleep, Eva is already getting ready for work, but she hears Ruby calling her and asking if her patroness is going to the market. The main character hugs the little girl and asks why she woke up so early. She also claims that she will be back soon. Little Red Riding Hood asks Eva not to leave and sleep with her a little longer. But if the main character does not go, she will not earn any money. The little girl asks why her patroness needs a lot of money. The same one in the future wants to run away before Ruby kills her, but she cannot answer that. So she says that it is also that they can move to a better place. Then the girl takes out an expensive-looking ring from her pajamas and says that she picked it up in the forest. She apologizes for going into the forest, even though the white-haired lady asked her not to go out without permission. Eva warns the girl that if she walks alone, she will be attacked. She understands that Ruby is bored at home, but does not know how to resist this cutie. Sister says that she will return early, and they will all play snowballs together. Little Red Riding Hood is very happy about this. The main character asks if the little girl will wait for her. Then she suggests that the girl go to sleep some more, because she is still sleepy, and she will save the ring that the little girl gave her. Having said goodbye to her patroness, Ruby turns around and heads towards the fireplace, saying what a white-haired lady strangled, because she hinted that she should sell the ring. While lighting the fireplace with her fire powers, the girl says that excessive stupidity is also a sin. A few days ago in the southern region, Ruby was lying in bed in a not very good condition. An elderly lady, who was most likely a doctor, said that it was an idiopathic disease that caused fever. They tried so many treatments, and the child was not getting any better. The lady tells the girl's brother to prepare for the worst. The boy is shocked by these words, and his fire element goes out of control. The maid shouts at her master to control his inner fire element, otherwise both relatives will be in danger, and asks him to take a deep breath and calm down. The captain says then not to worry, because it is not so difficult for him to control himself, and asks the doctor to take care of Rachel. The little girl calls her brother, and he asks excitedly about her well-being. The little girl wants to touch her brother, and extends her hand to him. The boy already wants to touch his sister, but at the last moment he changes his mind because the growth of the fire element inside the girl will be a threat to both of them. The captain only says that he did not expect his sister to suddenly lose consciousness. Rachel was very upset by her brother's actions. He asked her if she was sure she was feeling okay. Little Red Riding Hood replies that she just had a nightmare. The guy was curious about what she dreamed about that night. Since that day, the legend that dragons have only one heart has spread throughout the city. She thought that these tales were somehow connected with the captain, so she insisted that she would save him no matter what it took. When the older brother came to his sister's room, he saw only a note on the balcony floor, which said that the girl would return when she sorted out the rumors that had been spread about the captain. Only weeks later did it become known that she had gone north. When the boy went to search for his sister, his servant reported that a similar girl was seen in the square, and people said that she was with a stranger who hid his face. The boy asks if his ward is sure of this. He answers positively, and adds that the kidnapper bought her a dream catcher. The captain is very angry and says that the criminal hopes to lure his sister with a trinket. Considering this impudence, he tells his servants that he will go there himself. As he walks along the snow-covered path, he wonders in his mind how the vile wolf dares to approach his sister. At that time, Eva returns home and her nose itches. The girl wonders if anyone remembers her. But then she remembers that the children must be waiting for her, so it's time for her to go home. A man approaches the main character, saying that he is in a hurry, and asks if she is selling something interesting today. The white-haired lady realizes that this is another drug addict. She may be poor, but Eva was raised well, so she doesn't get involved in dirty deeds. Only Half-Wolf tells the stranger to get lost. Her moral principles do not allow her to get involved with addicts, but the main reason is that they are all bad people. The drug addict notices a ring hanging on the girl's neck and says that it looks expensive, asking to sell the expensive thing because it does not suit the girl. Eva is furious about this, and the stranger continues to ask questions. He asks about the price of the ring. The main character replies that, selling it if the man gives her 50 million gold bars right now. He didn't expect such a price, and you say that it's unrealistic, and then asks if the merchant despises him, and threateningly disappears, and asks if he wants to get punched in the face. Eva is fed up with him, and she decides to calm the guy down using ice magic. She hates drug addicts because of such cases. The girl quickly deals with that idiot, and thinking that she had no plans to look at such abomination, she needs to quickly return to her beautiful Rachel and Zion. She turns to the drug addict and adds that even if he brings money, the girl will not give up the ring, because it is priceless to her. On the way home, the main character thinks that she will give the ring to Ruby as soon as she returns. Although the little girl insisted that she found it by accident, there is a possibility that it is her personal thing. The white-haired lady also notices that the dragon captain still hasn't found out where his sister is. She expected it to happen sooner. But as soon as the girl thinks about it, goosebumps run down her skin. But this can't go on for long, and it would be good to keep the fact that they are wolves a secret from Ruby, because Rachel herself will definitely not guess. They say that the captain loves his sister very much, so Eva decided that the search would not take much time. Although their house is difficult to find because it is deep in the forest, and the main character told the children not to go out for a walk. Suddenly, the white-haired lady realizes that she looks like a kidnapper who keeps children captive. The girl notices that someone is following her, and if he tracked her down in the forest, he should not be underestimated. Eva takes an apple out of the basket and freezes it. She looks back and says that she knows the stranger is hiding, so let him come out. At that time, the children are sitting quietly at home. Ruby is writing something, and Zion is playing with toys. The boy with white hair gets cold, and Little Red Riding Hood wonders why he is always cold. She turns up the heat in the fireplace. Suddenly, the girl gets a familiar feeling. She jumps up and tells Zion that she needs to go out. The guy reminds Ruby that sister does not allow her to go out without permission. But she screams that in such a situation, there is no point in remaining obedient and that she must be saved. The boy with white hair does not understand who the little girl is talking about. Little Red Riding Hood, running out of the house, answers to herself that she will save only one person, their sister. The main character is still in the forest and wonders who might be chasing her. She assumes that it could be Little Red Riding Hood's brother, but immediately refutes that fact because the dragon would have shown up right away and not been spying. Then she thinks about the possibility that the doctor gave them to the wolves. Something moves in the bushes, and the girl throws an apple there, but there is no sound of it falling. But Ava does not believe that anyone could stand up to such a blow. She tells the stranger to come out and tell her what he needs, but he does not show up. The main character did not even hope that the pursuer would show up so easily. But when the girl turns around and looks into the bushes, she sees a bunch of eyes looking at her. She thought that 1 or 2 people were chasing her, but there are many more. Eva realizes that she cannot cope alone, and at that moment, fire spreads through the forest. In the original story, Rachel has committed a massacre, and the main character already begins to assume that she attacked her because of the apple hit and looks around trying to find the baby. But she sees only her older brother. Ava understands that he seems to have misunderstood, but she is choking and cannot even say a word. The guy tells her to stop pretending to be a fool. The main character replies that she did nothing wrong. The captain tells her not to dare joke with him, because he has no mercy and patience to listen to the girl's nonsense. He has already gotten used to the idea that the white-haired lady is a kidnapper. Only half the wolf thinks that this is unfair. She grabs the captain by the hand and, filled with determination, screams at him to at least listen first. The same one is very surprised by the girl's actions and feels some danger. A moment later, the flame goes out, and Eva feels a loss of strength. The main character says that she tried to take care of the guy's sister, and no amount of money would be enough to repay her for her kindness. She says that the captain is a cruel bastard. Only half the wolf loses consciousness, and the gentleman with ruby eyes does not allow her to fall. At that moment, Ruby runs up to them and asks how a man could dare hurt her sister. She calls her brother a villain. Ava wakes up at home and thinks of everything as a dream. Rachel screamed and then ran to her. The main character remembers the captain's face when his sister called him a villain. After that, the white-haired lady understands that it was not a dream and that crazy dragon was there. She hears someone running towards her. It's Ruby and Zion. The kids jump on their sister and hug her. The brother asks if she's okay, and the sister adds if she's feeling better. Ava, touched by his children's opinion, thanks them for their concern and begins to calm the children down. Zion, with tears in his eyes, says that he was very scared because he thought that his sister had died. Ruby adds that he was not the only one who thought so. They both looked at the main character with pity, so I thought what a huge elephant they had blown out of a molehill. In her thoughts, she asked the children to stop because she was still alive. She hugs her little angels, saying that she is fine. Although she herself almost cried when she saw how worried they were. The boy with white hair says that his brother left for a while and said that he would be back soon. Ava does not understand who Zion is talking about, but then she understands that he means Little Red Riding Hood's older brother. She remembers that when she touched his hand, she felt as if all her strength had been sucked out of her, and checks to see if she has ears and a tail, because if they saw the true nature of the main character, she would never wake up. The captain just returns to the house and notices that the door is of terrible quality and is not at all secure. The moment Ava and the guy's gazes met, the girl lost the power of speech. Little Red Riding Hood's older brother notices with a smile on his face that the main character has woken up and says that he thought she would never see him again. The half-breed only now had a chance to take a closer look at him, and she didn't know that he was so attractive. The guy noticed Ava's gaze and asked if he had something on his face. She replied that she didn't and apologized. And then she suggested that the captain follow her. They all sat at one table. The dragons had ice in their cups because hot drinks could make them sick. The children stayed close to the white-haired lady. There was an awkwardness in the air, so Rachel's older brother started talking. He said his name was Noel Remier. The guy had a lot of questions, but first he decided to apologize for what happened in the forest. Eva replied that there was nothing wrong with it, and she thought to herself that he was more polite and kind than she thought, and it seemed she knew nothing about dragons. She looked at her younger brother and understood why Noel attacked her. After all, in his place, the main character would have gone crazy upon learning that her Siona had been kidnapped. But she still thinks that it cannot be denied that it was too much. Because the guy almost killed her, she thinks about compensation for all the troubles caused. Yes, she looked at the captain's face and immediately thought that he himself would pass for compensation. Her wolf instincts make themselves known. The guy excitedly asks if the white-haired girl is feeling well, because her whole face is covered in it. But the main character does not let the guy finish his sentence, saying that everything is fine and she was just thinking about something. She asks what happened. Noel apologizes for explaining so late and says that he is actually Rachel's older brother. His little sister suddenly disappeared, which is why he came all the way here. But the girl does not understand what is happening and asks who Rachel is. The captain asks the girl why she pretends that they don't know each other. But Little Red Riding Hood hugs her benefactress and tells her about Noel's strangeness, because he calls her his sister. Eva understands that the handsome man really is the girl's brother, but she can't say that she knew about it, so she will have to pretend to be stupid. She asks Noel how she can believe him if the girl insists that it is not so, but he assures that he is not lying and asks the girl to give her hand. The little girl does not trust the guy, so she hesitates, but after Eva's words, she extends her hand. When their hands stop close to each other, a flame bursts out on the older brother's hand. Rachel quickly pulls her hand away and says that she was very scared because fire came out of her hand. The main character calms down Little Red Riding Hood, saying that she will protect the girl. Zion turns to his sister, and she, thinking that he was also afraid of the flame because she was seeing it for the first time, does not know how to explain everything to him, but she doesn't even have time to say anything before Rachel turns her head and says that she's scared. She asks Zion to also take her hand. The boy doesn't understand why he should take her hand, but he takes her hand anyway. Noel doesn't understand why his sister doesn't recognize him. While the main character asks the child if she feels better, she answers that she does. And then, with a smug grin, he turns to his brother. While the fire burns in the fireplace, the older brother asks Rachel why she still doesn't remember him, but the girl simply turns away from her brother, to which he simply puts his hand to his face and sighs. Eva sympathizes with the guy because now he is a villain for his sister. She asks Noel not to be upset, because when they first met, the girl did not remember anything. Seeing how upset Noel was, the main character decided to tell him the whole story of their first meeting. When the guy found out that Rachel had lost consciousness, he got angry and thought that it was all because of the damned wolves. Eva, however, understands that they are doomed if the captain finds out that they are wolves too. The brother asks if the white-haired girl is okay, but she replies that everything is okay and understands that he is worried about what happened. The guy says he had to put out the fire, but there are problems with that. Noel Remier is considered the strongest hero in history. He is endowed with extraordinary magic. He is described as someone who can conquer the raging flames with only one heart. However, this also means that he has difficulty overcoming his own emotions and controlling his powers. The fire that he has difficulty controlling was extinguished by Eve. The girl wonders if this happened because she has the ability to freeze. After all, if so, there are many mages whose powers are superior to hers. She wonders if Noel might not know about this. The main character decides to ask if this happened because of her freezing ability. After all, as far as she knows, there are many wolves with similar powers in the north. Noel suspiciously asks if the girl is a wolf, but Arta says that it is just an assumption but the girl can't say it. She is trained to say that she is not a wolf, but a human, many times, but now she could not squeeze out a word. She tried to say it again, but she was interrupted in mid-sentence by Little Red Riding Hood. She asked her sister with tears in her eyes to drive the stranger away. But Ava began to assure the little girl that the guy was not a stranger. After all, they are so similar to each other. Natalie just shook her head and said that he had offended her benefactress, which means he is bad, and asked Zion what he thought about it. The little brother began to nod and agree, saying that Ruby's brother is bad because he had offended Eva. They both begged to kick Noel out. Little Red Riding Hood claims that he is big and therefore scary, and his eyes are red. The white-haired boy with white hair agrees with her. Well, and then he notices that Ruby has the same eyes, but when she looks at him with a murderous look, he gets scared. The captain didn't know what to do, but the main character replies that her memories will soon return, so she asks the guy not to worry. Then the brother says that he will lightly touch his sister and it won't hurt, but Rachel turns away from him and hugs Eva tighter, saying that she doesn't like the black-haired one and that she will live with her sister. The main character mentally asks Little Red Riding Hood not to talk nonsense and says that she is causing her brother inconvenience. Ruby looks at her brother with anger. The white-haired lady, noticing this, turns the little girl to herself and tells her not to look so angrily at her brother. But the girl screams that if she has to leave, she will take the benefactress with her and asks her to go too. Although Rachel is charming, Eva says that it is time for the baby to go home, which makes the child cry. The main character tried to reject her as gently as possible in order to return home quickly. Noel understands that there is no choice. He asks the white-haired lady to do him a favor. The girl already understands where this is all leading and indignantly asks the captain what he means. The guy says that it won't take long, just until Rachel gets used to it and trusts him. Eva ponders this. The little devil inside her tells her that there will be no second chance to meet such a handsome man, and asks if he is not her type. The little devil claims that the girl should take advantage of the opportunity and do as she wants. The little angel objects, because if Noel finds out the truth, the main character will be killed. Ava is already preparing for a refusal, because although one can only dream of such a cute guy, but if he finds out that she is a she-wolf, she will be cooked on the fire. But then the guy says that he understands that he has committed an unforgivable act, and it is shameful to ask a girl for a favor, but he begs her to do it for Rachel. The main character's heart almost jumps out from this. She says that it will be quite difficult, because she has personal reasons for this. Noel claims that he will repay her kindness, and the white-haired lady asks if he will repay her with money. After the captain says yes, the girl asks the children to leave them for a while. When Rachel's brother is about to leave the house, he says goodbye to the main character and hopes that she will think about the conditions they discussed and repeat that he was very guilty and he is incredibly sorry. Ava says that in his place she would have done the same. This behavior of the guy was unexpected for the main character because she thought that the captain of the dragons would refuse arrogantly, but he even bowed to her. The guy, a little embarrassed, says that he knows it's impolite to ask for something like that, but could the white-haired lady take his hand again? He adds that he didn't mean to offend the girl and just wants to make sure. Ava understands the guy and extends her hand to him, but Rachel interrupts them, asking why this guy is still here. She hugs Eva and glares at her brother. The captain says upset that he will go because his presence still worries the baby. The main character says goodbye and tells him to take care of himself. Noel asks the white-haired lady to explain everything to Rachel. After that, Eva suggests that the baby return to the house. Lying down on the soft bed, she thinks about what a difficult day it was today. Looking at her hand, she remembers the captain's words and wonders if he wanted to know more about her strength. The girl does not know why, but she would prefer a walk in a snowstorm to these conflicting feelings. A red-eyed little girl climbs onto her bed and plops down next to her. The white-haired lady addresses the girl named Rachel, but she says that it is strange to hear her called by that name. The main character claims that the little girl will soon get used to it and asks if she was scared. The girl says that she was very scared because fire burst out of her hand. Ava strokes Rachel, thinking that it will be difficult for her to explain everything, and she asks if the white-haired lady was scared too. The main character was scared, of course, but first of all, she needs to reconcile the baby with her brother. So she asks the girl if the captain seemed cool to her. Rachel is surprised by such a question and asks again, and then asks the white-haired lady to tell what exactly is cool about him. The main character thinks that the girl liked Noel too. She says he is tall and has broad shoulders. Eva has never seen anything like that. Rachel asks if she likes guys with broad shoulders. The benefactor says that it is her taste. Then the little girl asks, what about his appearance? Ava says that his face is incredibly attractive. The child says that Noel is her sister's ideal. The main character agrees with this fact. But wolves are inveterate enemies of dragons, so she tells the girl that this is not true. The girl looks a little downcast after these words and asks the half-blood if she wants Rachel to be friends with him, because if so, she will try. Eva jumps out of bed and asks if it is true. In her head, there are a lot of questions whether she was able to convince the girl and whether she changed her mind. Rachel says that she can meet her brother 3 times a week, but her benefactor must be with her because she is afraid to be alone with the captain. Eva hugs the girl and claims that she will do it without any problems, but once a week will be enough. Rachel, however, claims that 3 times is better. The main character is worried and says that 3 times is quite a lot. But the little girl does not want to change her mind, so she agrees. At that time, Noel is walking through the forest. His servants ask what about that girl. The captain looks at his hand and thinks that one light touch of hers was enough to instantly calm the fire raging in him. He orders his men to send more men there to guard the house, saying that they will continue to watch them. Zion enters the room and asks what the girls are doing. Eva says that they are discussing Rachel's brother. Brother, hearing this name, says that he hates this guy because he wanted to offend his sister. The main character insists that it was just a misunderstanding, and the captain apologized. Then Zion reminds the girl that she herself said not to judge a book by its cover and told how many dangerous people there are in the world. He is also indignant that Ruby is Ruby, and he does not want to call her anything else. Eva understands that the main obstacle will be Zion, not Rachel, and she thinks about what to do now. The little girl decides to change the subject and reminds her benefactor that she promised to go play outside with them today. The main character says that she almost forgot, although Zion says that there are many dangers there, so it's probably not worth it. But the boy disagrees with his sister and says that they can play near the house because he also wants to go outside. The white-haired lady thinks that today they need to be more kind to them and tells the children that she has things to do now, so let them go together, but let them not go too far from the house. The kids are happy with this news and run outside with smiles on their faces. Brother suggests making a snowman. Eva tells them to dress warmly or they will catch a cold. When Rachel ties the scarf tighter on the white-haired boy, the main character says that there is a lot of delicious food for dinner, so they should not be late. The boys are very happy about this news and agree. They quickly jump out into the street, and the white-haired lady follows them and says that if they notice a stranger, then they should immediately run home. Eva thinks that, fortunately, Rachel has switched her attention for now and notices that she has a lot of work to do, wondering where to start. Rachel is led deeper into the forest by a boy with white hair, who says that their sister said not to go far. The little girl is not very excited about this and says that she will show her something that Zion will like. The child immediately starts listing his favorite things: stewed pork, toys, and hugs with his sister. Little Red Riding Hood says that this is childish. She shows the boy with white hair fire from his hand, and he admires it, saying that it is cool. Raslik knows that his brother likes her fire magic. She remembers how one morning, Zion noticed how the girl lit a fireplace with her powers. He thought it was amazing and asked to see more. Rachel was surprised, and she told the boy that she did nothing, but he claimed that he saw everything. Little Red Riding Hood said he just dreamed it, but Zion said his dream was magical and he would tell his sister about it. The little girl gave in and said she would show him if he didn't tell his sister. but only once. Now the white-haired child warms his hands at Rachel's fire and says that it is very warm. Little Red Riding Hood, thinking that Tat kept his word and did not tell his sister about what happened, asks us if the boy is warm. He says yes, and notices that the fire, though small, is warm. He likes it. The little girl puts out the fire, and the boy with white hair notices that it has become cold. Rachel asks if Zion thinks that the weather in the north is too cold. The boy with white hair answers that he asked his sister many times to move to a warmer place, but she refused, saying that it was not time yet. Rachel does not understand because the white-haired lady told her that she would like to move to a better place. Zion says that he will tell the reason if the little girl makes fire. She does so and notices that the boy is bargaining like a sister. After that, he says that the sister said that she has a couple of options in mind for their future. It could be a place that no one knows about. Little Red Riding Hood thinks about what was said. Her fire begins to flare up. Zion continues his story and says that Eva said that she will try very hard to earn money for the castle. Rachel thinks, because if the favorite things of the white-haired lady are a handsome man, a castle, a lot of money, and a place that no one knows, that means her older brother will be able to fulfill all her wishes. The girl's fire is getting bigger and bigger, so she tells Zion that she knows how to fulfill all his sister's wishes. She says that they should go after that handsome guy. But the boy with white hair doesn't like this idea because he is bad and has offended his sister. Little Red Riding Hood claims that it was a misunderstanding, and also that he apologized, adding that her brother is very cool and can fulfill all of Eva's wishes, and Noel can take the boy with white hair to warm places. Zion. He is very happy about this fact, and Little Red Riding Hood tells him that he is a smart boy and offers him to hide his ears. The boy with white hair excitedly says that it was an accident and asks the red-eyed little girl to pretend that she didn't see anything. Note just laughs at Zion and tells him that he forgot about the tale. The white-haired boy panics and asks Ruby not to tell him anything about her sister, because otherwise he will be scolded. The little girl agrees, but on one condition: the white-haired child should not hate her older brother. They agree, and Zion asks if he should call the girl Rachel. The little girl says that he can call her Ruby. In the morning, Eva sleeps peacefully in her crib, but then she hears someone knocking on the door. She gets tired from her bed and sleepily drags herself to the door, not knowing who came so early. Opening the door, she sees Noel. Then the sleepy girl remembers that the guy promised to come by today. After the main character has changed her clothes, she asks the captain to forgive her for her unkempt appearance, because she forgot about his arrival. He is not offended and says that perhaps he came too early and interrupted the girl's sleep. The white-haired lady insists that he is not to blame. After that, they go to Rachel, who is still sleeping soundly, because yesterday the children played until late, and now nothing can wake them up. Noel puts his hand on his sister's head and notices that she seems to be having a great time. The guy asks if Rachel is causing trouble. The new answer he hears is that the little girl is a very sweet and obedient girl. The captain notices that his sister is listening to someone for the first time. I ask you if this is true because she is very charming and often expresses aegyo. Aegyo means a display of affection, often expressed through a cute voice, facial expressions, and gestures. Rachel wakes up and sees her brother and benefactor sitting opposite her. The little girl says that they look good together, and then closes her eyes again. Eva, blushing, says that she probably hasn't woken up yet, and claims that she often talks in her sleep. The main character mentally asks the captain to say at least something, because silence makes the situation even more awkward. Noel asks if this is the first time. The white-haired lady does not understand what he means. Rachel's brother talks about their meeting, because Eva seemed familiar to him. The main character can't hold back her laughter, so she turns away from the guy because she thinks about the old-fashionedness of such a way to get closer to a girl. But the white-haired lady understands that he didn't mean it. Only half the wolf says that he won't claim, but she has lived only in the north since birth. So you think that they could hardly have crossed paths, and asks Noel if he could have been mistaken. Suddenly, Rachel gets up from the bed and says what a slowpoke her brother is. The main character is shocked by this, but Rachel, with a sweet smile on her face, wishes her sister a good morning. Looking at her brother, She is indignant that this guy has appeared again and claims that she has become very hot. She has a feeling as if someone touched her in her sleep. The white-haired lady says that it was her brother, and the girl may have received his warmth. Ava wonders how a dragon can feel heat and thinks that the girl may have gotten used to the ice magic and the northern climate. The main character notices that Noel and his sister are indifferent to each other. Just like strangers, she decides that they should help and asks what they will do today. Ava has an idea. She takes Rachel's hand and says that, and take her brother's hand. This way, she can gradually get used to her brother's body temperature. But the little girl cries out that this is wrong. She takes the hand of her brother and her benefactor. Putting them together, she says that everything is fine now. Eva is a little embarrassed and asks if she should hold her brother's hand too. She holds the guy's hand, but he doesn't seem to want it. The white-haired lady thinks he doesn't like it. So she releases her hand and apologizes, saying that she will have to hold on to him too. But Noel says there is no need to apologize. It is the first time he has felt such a strong cold, and it is even a little disturbing. The main character asks the guy if he is okay, and notices that through their handshake, she feels warmth. She wonders if this is what he wanted to check that time. Suddenly, Zion walks into the room and asks what the couple is doing. Jumping on the bed, he claims that he wants to do the same and asks her to hold his hand too. Eva is a little upset that their handshake was interrupted because she felt very warm. Rachel asks the boy with white hair why he had to drop in on them, and the main character tells her brother that he can't behave like that in front of a guest and invites him to sit next to her. But Zion doesn't listen and claims that he wants to play the game too. Only half the wolf wonders in his mind why the boy with white hair is so capricious today. She tells the child that Rachel is talking to her brother now, and he should not disturb them. Eva is afraid that Noel will notice Zion's ears and tail. The captain claims that there is nothing to worry about and that they were playing hot and cold. He invites the boy with white hair to join in, holding out his hand. Zion says that he likes that and holds out his hand in return. Touching Noel's hand, the boy with white hair can't help but feel so warm. Ava, I like her brother's reaction because the captain isn't even their relative. The child has a tail. The main character is very worried about this and thinks it's time. Their bad ending. Only Half-Wolf quickly covers his brother's tail with his dress and replaces that Rachel and Noel haven't noticed his tail yet. But the girl doesn't know what to do, because soon his ears will appear. The captain asks about the well-being of the white-haired lady. Ava says that the room just got a little hot. Noel guiltily says that it's his fault. The main character silently prays that he won't look down and thinks that she needs to distract him somehow. The white-haired girl says that it was just a slip of the tongue, and what she really wanted to say was that she was a little cold. The girl puts her hands on the captain's hands. She tells Noel that his hands are very warm and he is happy about it, saying that he is glad that Eva likes it. The main character is very angry with her brother. She tries to distract Rachel's brother in every way and says that his hands are like warm potatoes. In her thoughts, she asks someone to stop this disgrace. Rachel puts her hands on the head of the boy with white hair and tells her sister to look, because Zion's hair is disheveled. She claims that the boy's hair is sticking out like puppy ears. Zion is horrified to realize that he almost made a big mistake. He hides his tail. Eva sighs in relief, and you notice that she is still holding Noel's hand. She quickly pulls her hand away and apologizes, saying she was just lost in thought. Zion is still touching his head in worry, and Rachel shows him that everything is okay. Noel says that everything is fine because Zion is a friendly boy with white hair. The captain does not really know how to play with children, so he worries. He puts his hand on the boy's head and says that he is obedient, unlike Rachel. Noel says that he likes Zion. The same one jumps on the captain and hugs him. The main character in shock asks Zion to come to her, but Rachel takes her hand, saying that she is hot. Eva hugs Little Red Riding Hood and thinks to herself that her brother will drive the girl crazy one day. She just hopes that he will not do anything again. She tells Zion not to bother Noel, but the boy with white hair does not even listen and tells the captain that he is warm like the sun, warm and big. Rachel's brother is happy and says that this is the first time someone has ever complimented him like that. He thanks Zion for this, and the boy with white hair notices that he is also very handsome. The kid tells his sister that this guy is her type. Noel is embarrassed by such words. Ava is also shocked by what was said, and in her mind, she asks her brother what he is talking about. She asks Zion if he is awake yet and asks him to move closer. The girl says that he is still sleepy and is talking nonsense. But the white-haired child, claiming that she constantly repeated that she loves handsome guys, especially when they cry. The half-breed's face turns red from these words. Eva asks Zion what's going on with him today. The main character puts Rachel on the floor and starts to tear her brother away from Noel. But he doesn't want to let go of the captain. Eva thinks that he's had enough, because few of them dared to reveal her secret in front of strangers. When Zion was a baby, every time he started to cry, the girl made fun of him and said that she liked crying boys with white hair. Who knew that karma would catch up with her for this? She mentally asks the captain to pretend that he did not hear anything, but he thinks about it and repeats out loud about the beautiful crying guys. The main character is almost crying, thinking about all the bad words in the world. As evening falls, Noel leaves the estate and tells his sister that he will be back soon. Then he says goodbye to Eva, but for some reason, she doesn't look very happy. Apparently, life has tossed her around today. The captain, with a smile on his face, wants to ask the half-breed for something, but when his gaze falls on Rachel, he says that he didn't want to say anything important. The guy insists that it's time for him to go, and the main character says goodbye to him. She was still curious about what he wanted to say. As Noel walks through the forest, he begins to think that it is dangerous for him to get involved with strangers, because it can be risky. Because of his heart, he killed too many innocent people, including his parents. The guy can't control his frightening power. He can't understand one thing. How did Eva manage to tame her so easily? The guy doesn't know why, but he even took control of the inner fire. From the mere thought of the girl, anxiety begins to pulsate in his chest, burning his heart, and a smile does not leave his face. This question reminded Noel of a dream he had a few days ago. The captain didn't understand where he was. His hand was painted black. The guy saw a person walking towards him through the flames. Everything was like in a fog, and he couldn't see the face. Noel understood that if the girl came closer, she would get hurt. He began to tell her not to come near, but his tongue was tied because he could barely breathe. He shouted to the stranger not to come near him, but the girl did not listen and touched the captain and put out all the fire. The pain that tormented him so much disappeared. Noel asked the girl to say her name. After this moment, the memories break off. Walking through the forest, Zero thinks that the whole thing is that Eva is his only salvation from a deadly disease. That's why thoughts about her make the unconscious guy smile. Love at first sight has nothing to do with it. Children only belong in romance novels. Noel hears some rustling. He turns around and sees his sister. Rachel tells him how slow he is. She calls her brother a dumbass, a moron, and says he has no more intelligence than a brainless, fire-breathing reptile. Noel looks at his sister in surprise. She regains her composure. Rachel states that it is a good thing that her brother has not yet ruined her plan. Since Eva is a chicken-hearted chicken, Rachel cannot take her to such a dangerous place. Noel asks his sister how she got here, since it is not safe. The girl says that it doesn't matter, and claims that the white-haired lady likes guys who cry beautifully. She asks her brother if he got the hint, but when he tries to ask what the little girl means, Rachel shuts him up, saying that she hasn't finished yet, and she continues her story saying that the most important thing is to be handsome. Eva's ideal is a tall guy with broad shoulders, and if possible, money. She dreams of living in a palace. Little Red Riding Hood doesn't know which one yet. But the white-haired lady is a kind girl who clearly understands what she wants and tries to make it come true. The captain asks what of it. His sister is already furious and asks if Noel is a fool. She shouts that he fits the description perfectly and asks why he doubts. The little girl tells her brother not to convince himself that he does not feel sympathy for Eva. Noel, all red, says that he has no feelings for the white-haired lady. Rachel screams that he is an idiot because how could he not notice his crush? Having calmed down, she says that she will help her brother, but he tells him not to forget that he is a guy, which means he should take the initiative in communicating with the one he likes. In the morning, Rachel wakes up in a warm bed. She notices that her sister is getting ready to go somewhere. The little girl runs up to her benefactress and asks if she is leaving. Eva replies that she has some important things to do. Little Red Riding Hood asks if she is going to the market and if her brother, that is, the guy, gave her money. Only half the wolf answers that Noel gave a lot of money, but she needs to visit a friend and will return soon, so Rachel cannot worry and go to bed. The little girl says goodbye to the white-haired lady, but Little Red Riding Hood notices that her sister took a basket of herbs with her. Rachel thinks that her brother gave Ava a lot of money, but it is still not enough for her. She talks about the girl's ambitions and approves of them, because such a girl is worthy of becoming her stepsister. But something worries Little Red Riding Hood, because she always covers her face when she goes to sell herbs so that no one recognizes her, and she actually goes to see a friend. The little girl is horrified to realize that this friend might actually be her boyfriend. Eva said she needed money, but not to live happily ever after with her boyfriend. Rachel quickly distracts you from such thoughts by saying that she will not even consider such a possibility. The little girl decides that she needs to follow her sister, but suddenly, Zion, who had just woken up, appears behind her. He asks where Ruby is heading, and the girl replies that she needs to go out. Well, the little half-wolf asks where and says he will go too. Rachel doesn't like it very much, because she wanted to follow her benefactor secretly and quickly return so that the boy with white hair wouldn't notice anything, but he ruined all her plans. She tells Zion that this is a very boring place, but he asks where it is, because he is curious. Little Red Riding Hood understands that if she doesn't take him with her, he will definitely follow her and may get lost on the way back. So she gives her consent for the guy to go with her, but she asks Togo to promise that he will stay close. The children gather and leave the house to find their sister. Eva, walking through the forest, remembers Rachel's words. She thinks that Noel gave her money and a lot of it. When the captain brought the white-haired lady bags of gold coins, she asked how to understand this, but the guy remembered Eva's words, who said that she needed a lot of money. The main character thought that the guy would despise her because of her strange preferences. Looking at the fur full of gold, she wondered how much money was there and why the captain looked so pleased. Maybe giving out money was his hobby. Only half the wolf handed Noel the bag of coins back and said that there were too many in it. But Noel began to object, saying that it seemed to him that there was not enough, and if more was needed, then let the girl say. He asked her not to worry about it. The main character wanted to ask how much he could add, but giving in to instincts in the presence of a stranger was a bad idea, and she decided that she should refuse. But the captain replied that she should not be shy about asking for more, because he could give her as much as she wanted. Ava took a handful of coins and handed them to Noel, and asked if she could exchange them for something more valuable, for the captain's smile. He felt a little awkward and said the girl's name. This pushed her out of her thoughts, and she said a little embarrassedly that once she spent it all, she would ask for more. Half-breed instincts had gotten the better of her again a few minutes ago. The main character thought about what would happen if she asked for a fortune. She thinks that the captain is very naive, because as soon as she takes his hand, his cheeks turn pink with embarrassment. Modest guys are her type. Ava tries to tear herself away from these thoughts, because now that she has a lot of money, she can give the last order and return to the children. She meets her customer, he greets her, and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. This is one of the regular customers of the white-haired lady. He is a businessman who is always traveling for work, so he knows a lot, and sometimes tells the girl interesting stories. The blue-haired man asks if the main character brought what he asked for. The wolf only half answers that she did. The buyer says that tigers in the east love healthy vegetables, so they like herbs. This is the most amazing thing the girl has heard from him. She says she brought more. Maybe this is her last day of sales. The man asks why so suddenly, and if something happened, he also asks where he should buy herbs for his tigers now. Ava says that it is his problem. The man says that he thought they were close. The main character replies that it just seemed that way to him, and she asks if the businessman found out what she asked for. He asks if the girl talks about how to contact intermediaries for illegal migration, because regarding this, the man asks if the wolf only knows half that they have a new ruler. Eva asks if he is somehow connected with her question. The blue-haired buyer says that several middlemen were arrested, and illegal migration was strictly prohibited, and it is better not to do it now. Eva was very upset by this news. The businessman began to calm her down because they still have plenty of time, and the girl needs to wait until the ban is lifted. But the main character does not have much time. The buyer says that he wants to give the girl a parting gift. Eva looks at him and asks what it is. But the man says that these are rare herbs that are unlikely to be found or bought anywhere. The main character asks if these are drugs. The businessman says that it is something like that. Only Half-Wolf furiously rushes at the man and says that she does not need such a thing. The guy says that the girl is more honest than he thought and puts the gift in the basket, assuring that she will like the amazing taste of the new world. But the girl only claims that it will be a world of death when the cold hits and adds that she will throw the gift away on the way home. The businessman jokes that the cold hits in the north will not lead to death, unlike heat stroke. But it's not really funny for the half-breed because she really is in danger of dying from the heat. After saying goodbye to her customer, the girl heads home. She thought she would be able to move to warmer places when she saved up some money, but she didn't expect things to turn out like this. On the way home, Eva thinks that she has no choice and will have to live in the north and take care of Rachel for a while. She also needs to earn money to make good acquaintances, but the main character wonders what will happen to her if the dragons find out that she and her brother are wolves. She immediately drives away negative thoughts because there is always a way out, and they think about their children. Coming closer to the house, she sees that the door is open. Having entered only halfway, the wolf does not see the children. She understands that the children are not at home and wonders what happened to them. Wandering through the forest, she searches for them, but the children are nowhere to be found. Then the main character considers the possibility that they went to the square. Rachel is different from the locals in appearance. They will immediately notice her and recognize her, so they need to find them quickly. She asks the guys to wait for her. The girl runs around the market, but the children are not in the alley when they went to sell herbs together, nor on the street where they were walking. They are nowhere. Eva, with tears in her eyes, wonders where Rachel and Zion went and reproaches herself for not keeping an eye on them. She runs as fast as she can and crashes into a man. Eva apologizes and looks up to see that it is Noel. He asks if something happened to the girl. She replies that the children are missing. She left them at home and went away, and when she returned, they were no longer there. The main character considers it her fault because she only cared about money. She is an irresponsible sister. She cries and says it's all her fault. Noelle tries to calm the girl down, and she understands that he rules now is not the time to cry. She says she'll go and find the kids. Then she turns around and runs to find the kids. She mentally asks Zion and Ruby to take care of themselves until the girl finds them. At this time, a boy with white hair, looking at the market, asks Little Red Riding Hood if she is sure that they have come to the right place. Rachel replies that she is not really, but maybe. The boy with white hair doesn't like the surroundings very much and says that they shouldn't be there. Then he asks if it's time to go home. But Ruby takes his hand and says that they have come a long way to find their sister, to which Zion replies that he is scared. A little girl tells a boy with white hair to stop whining because she hates crybabies, but he insists that his sister loves them. Ruby says that they are Eva's type, not hers. After Little Red Riding Hood says that Zion's sister has weird preferences, and he decides to support them, so he cries like a baby with white hair. The boy with white hair screams that his sister is not weird. The little girl says she didn't call her weird, although honestly, she is unusual. But Zion asks what's wrong with her preferences. Ruby claims that no one in the world likes crybabies, to which you hear that at least a couple of people do. To this, the girl replies that her older brother would never cry, and Zion tells her not to dare despise his sister. Ruby says that she didn't think so. The men standing nearby notice the children, and Little Red Riding Hood realizes that she acted thoughtlessly. She's a pro. She shakes Zion's hand, offering to leave from there. But Zion turns around and starts running away from the girl, saying that he will find his sister himself. The little girl shouts at the boy with white hair to stop, because if he continues to run, he will reach the central square, and there they will be noticed. She has no choice, and the girl uses the power of flame to stop Zion. He finally stops, and seeing the flame, says that he likes it. Ruby tells the boy with white hair that he is a fool, because she never said that she does not love his sister. Whoever Eva likes, she will always be the most adored future stepsister. The little girl is happy that the problem is solved, as she thought the best way to make a naive wolf wag his tail is fire. There is a man standing behind Little Red Riding Hood and repeating her last word. Ruby is surprised because there was no one there a minute ago. The stranger looks at the girl and asks if she can use fire. But she, pulling her hood over herself, says that he is mistaken. The wolf smiles, asking if the girl thinks she can hide her face under the kerchief. Pointing to the flame burning near Zion, he claims that it was the little girl who created it. The boy with white hair is very scared and shaking. Ruby tells him to stand behind her. Judging by his lifeless look, this man is dangerous. Little Red Riding Hood tells the stranger that it is none of his business. She threatens the stranger with fire, telling him to stay where he is, or this fire. But the man does not let the girl finish her sentence. He looks at the girl's hand and claims that he has seen such a ring somewhere. The guy remembers his meeting with the white-haired merchant and says that now it is clear to him why the girl refused him. He starts laughing like crazy. The children are scared by this. After only a moment, the stranger's face changes and asks how the dragon dared to come north. The man grabs Little Red Riding Hood by her clothes and lifts her into the air, asking how the dragon dared to speak to him in an arrogant tone. He says he can make good money by selling the children. Zion starts punching the stranger and tells the bastard to let Ruby go. But the man is irritated by this, and he pushes the boy with white hair. Zion falls to the floor, hitting his head. His ears appear. The stranger notices that the child is a half-breed and says jokingly that a dragon and only half-wolf are a great couple. Ruby thinks she has to protect Zion, but she can't breathe. Suddenly, flames flare up on the man's back. He doesn't understand what's happening and lets go of the girl. Noel asks furiously how this worthless person dared to touch his sister with his filthy hands. The captain approaches the children and asks if they are okay. At that time, the stranger who attacked the children screams that he will die and asks for help. But Noel is not going to help him. He thinks about what to do with this annoying wolf and is thinking about just finishing him off. Zion grabs the captain's hand and asks him to stop because the boy with white hair is scared. Noel asks Eva's brother for forgiveness. The calm and happiness he had been in for the last few days almost blinded him. The boy almost forgot who he was. The wolves were his enemies, who had to be killed. But what if it scares the white-haired lady? Just the thought of it makes Noel's heart skip a beat. He puts out the fire on the stranger's back. He immediately starts to get indignant and asks the guy if he wanted to kill him and how dare he attack a wolf on his own territory. The man claims that a war will start because of Noel. He claims that he will immediately go after the captain. But suddenly, a frozen apple flies into his head. It's Eva, asking how this bastard could do such a thing. The girl lifts the unconscious stranger from the ground and starts shaking him. She screams and asks how he dared to touch them with his dirty paws. She should have killed the guy right away when she realized he was a drug addict. The main character picks up a frozen apple from the ground and swings it to hit the bastard. But Noel doesn't let her do it. Only half the wolf asks why he stopped her. But in response, he hears that the girl is not herself. She tries to break free and screams for him to let her finish him off. Rachel, watching this, says that she no longer wants Eva to be her daughter-in-law. Zion asks why the girl decided so, but she replies that she would like to have a wife like that herself. Noel places his hands on the main character's cheeks and asks if she has calmed down. Only half the wolf begins to understand what she has done. The captain notices that she has regained her composure and apologizes for touching her without asking. He only wanted to help her calm down. Eva thanks him for his help. Zion runs to his sister and asks if she is okay. The white-haired lady grabs her brother by the shoulders and asks why he left home, and didn't she ask him to stay there while she was gone. The white-haired boy apologizes. The main character lived in fear that such happiness would disappear, so she tried to protect Zion from this. She asks her brother with tears in her eyes what would happen if he got hurt. Only the half-wolf was very worried about him. The boy with white hair started apologizing and asking his sister not to cry. Eva hugs her brother and says what a relief that nothing happened to him. Ruby calls the white-haired lady and says that it is her fault because the girl asked Zion to go with her. But the boy with white hair objects, saying that it was he who insisted and asked Ruby to walk with him outside and then ran away from her. Eva hugs the boys and says that it is her fault that she should have left the kids alone. Rachel says that it is not her fault because it all happened because she called her preferences in guys weird. Zion began to cry and scream that her preferences are not weird, but special. After that, Little Red Riding Hood apologizes and says that she will respect Eva's tastes from now on. And she says that she will ask her brother to cry more often. Only half the wolf asks them if they have said everything. Then the captain apologizes for interrupting and says that the main character really has amazing preferences. Then Eva says that she has stopped crying and suggests going home. But she says that first she needs to thank Noel for saving her. Zion hugs the captain and thanks him because without him, they would have had problems. Rachel also says thank you and calls him brother. Noel is touched by this and offers his sister a hug. Little Red Riding Hood jumps into her brother's arms. Zion says he's hungry. I tell him they'll stop for groceries on the way and asks if Rachel and her brother want a certain dish. But they whisper, and Little Red Riding Hood's brother says she lost something in the alley. Ava says that then we need to go back and asks what exactly the girl lost. Noda says that she will go with her brother because it is a secret. Noel says that the white-haired lady and Zion should go, and they will soon catch up with them. Only Half-Wolf, looking at them, thinks that it's good that they got along. Two dragons in the alley approach the same stranger who dared to offend the guys. He screams that he almost died and asks what else they want from him. Rachel says he brought it on himself because the emo had no business scaring her and Zion. Now it's time for him to pay for upsetting her future daughter-in-law. Eva puts the kids to bed. The captain comes into the room and asks if she's okay. The main character says that, yes, the kids have calmed down. But Noel says he wasn't asking about them. He was asking how Eva was doing. Only half the wolf doesn't understand what's going on. The man reaches out to touch her face. He moves her hair out of her face and says that her eyes are red. She says that she is fine, just very scared. The white-haired lady claims that what happened was her fault, but the captain insists that she does not need to blame herself because she will take what happened into account for the future, and it will not happen again. He tells Eva that she shouldn't blame herself for what the children did, and that she did a good job and did everything to protect them. Noel tells the girl that if she doesn't mind, they could do it together. But the main character doesn't let him finish his sentence, jumps out of bed, and quickly leaves, saying that she needs to collect herbs. The young man is a little surprised by this, and the lady with silver hair goes outside and thinks that so much has happened that day. He puts his hands to his chest and thinks that he never imagined that something like this would happen. So the girl decides that she can't just throw it out of her head, and she needs to come to her senses before returning home. The next day, the young lady is already sneezing. The little girl with red eyes asks if her benefactor is feeling unwell and offers her a blanket. The main character says that she feels somehow sick. The girl cannot believe that a short night walk led to a cold. She covers herself with a blanket and thinks that she has lived on it for so long north, but she managed to just get sick. But even the little white-haired Zion didn't catch a cold. The white-haired boy tells his sister not to die, and the girl says that everything is fine. Approaches Eve, a young man with black hair, and asks him to forgive him. He claims that the young lady has a high temperature and needs to take medicine. Then the guy points to the grass and says that they are good for the common cold, so he will brew some their girlfriend. The main character thanks him and apologizes, for which again causes inconvenience. But the young man tells her not to worry and claims that he will return soon. Zion offers his help, and the girl with black hair says that he can't use fire, so let him leave it to her. The main character watches all this from her bed. The guy at this time asks what herbs exactly to take, but the young lady slowly falls asleep. A little while later, someone wakes her up from her sleep. It turns out to be a guy with black hair. He brings a mug and says that it is medicine, so the girl should just take it and rest. The young lady rises heavily from her bed and says that her head is splitting. The guy brings her a glass and says that he has made a herbal infusion, so let Eva drink it, because it will make eating easier. The main character does so, but notices that the tea has a slightly bitter taste. The young man with black hair puts her to bed and offers her to sleep. He also says that he will leave the rest of the decoction on the table. Therefore, when the young lady wakes up, let her drink some more. Then he says that he will go outside with the children, and they will get water, after which they will return soon. The girl understands whether it is because of weakness. But when the guy's hands touch her, they make her feel like she's suspended between heaven and hell. The young lady thinks how warm she is. After all, through the touch of this young man, one can feel his love and desire to care. So she fell asleep immediately and had no idea what was happening around her. But when she opened her eyes, her body felt a little strange. The girl was wondering if they had found water. But suddenly, she noticed that her hand looked a little strange, and a tail appeared. Therefore, the main character comes to the realization that she has turned into a she-wolf. The young lady cannot believe it, because she slept for so many hours, as if she were not alive, and woke up in the form of an animal. The main character hopes that this must be a dream, and she is still sleeping, and what is happening is part of her fantasy. Ava decides to just calm down, close her eyes and count to 10, because maybe then everything will go back to normal. The young lady starts counting, but after a few numbers, she falls into despair and realizes that this is not a dream after all, and she is just trying to deny reality. Ava does not understand what is happening, but then he smells a slightly familiar smell, and when he looks at the table, he sees a cup of blue broth there. Now, the young lady understands that even though her nose is stuffy due to a cold, the foul smell can still be felt. And the girl remembers how she asked the young man to make a decoction of herbs in a basket. Well, those herbs have no side effects, and the guy apparently added something else. Then the main character climbs onto the table and sees those same blue herbs. The young lady remembers who gave them to her. She wonders why the guy gave them away and kept them for himself. She thinks that then it is not surprising that she turned, although in the story itself, this never happened. So the girl thinks what she should do to return to human form. After all, if she doesn't cope before this family arrives, things will be bad. The young lady is already imagining how they will burn her alive and thinks that she is finished. But the girl decides to stay calm and understands that, first, she needs to get out of there. So the wolf goes to the door and tries to push the door away. She thinks that she will return to her human form when the effect of the drug wears off. But no matter how hard the main character tries, she still can't open the door because she has paws instead of hands. But then the door suddenly swings open and the young lady thinks she's finally got it. But only Rachel enters the room. She tells Zion that Eva is most likely asleep, and when someone is sick, it is important to give them the opportunity to rest properly. The main character understands that she is finished, and when Rachel looks at her, the young lady thinks that, judging by the expression on her face, the girl understood who she is. She also sees her brother. But the boy with white hair only says that it is magical, and the main character understands that he apparently did not guess. Since his birth, they lived deep in the forest, so the boy never saw other wolves, and Eva did not show what they were like. But then the boy with white hair says that the ears and tail look familiar. The young lady prays that she will not be recognized. The boy with white hair says that the wolf looks like him, but Rachel quickly shuts him up and says that the creature looks like a dog. The girl claims that she saw her once and that it was definitely a dog. The boy with white hair only asks where the lady with black hair saw her and if her memory has returned. The main character is just wondering why Zion suddenly became smarter today, while the boy with white hair says that she needs to show the dog to her sister. But when they look at the bed, the sister is not there. So the young man begins to think. He says that his sister has disappeared, and the dog has appeared. The main character asks him in her thoughts not to think anything up, because now is not the time for thinking. The girl understands that her brother only turns on his brain when it is not required, and the boy with white hair adds that his sister is somehow connected with the dog. But the she-wolf immediately falls to the ground and starts rolling around on the floor to be petted. She understands that she needs to distract attention, and this method works, because the guy immediately runs up to the she-wolf and starts petting her. Rachel is a little shocked, but she still sighs and says that it is definitely a dog. The main character thinks that it hurts her to hear that she is called that. The girl says that sister must have left, and she has a fever, so Eva probably wanted to cool down. The guy just shows the wolf's paws and says that they look like marshmallows. Eva thinks that he should feel sorry and sympathize with his sister, who is forced to pretend to be a dog. They play with her. The lady with black hair adds that it doesn't matter and calls the young man a fool. She asks what will happen if her brother suddenly returns. The main character is a little scared because of this. The she-wolf understands that because of them, she almost forgot about her hopeless situation, because the final boss is about to appear. And then the very final boss enters the room. Everyone except Xiang looks at him in shock. The guy asks why this creature is there. The main character can't think of anything better than to just bark, and she herself understands that she's screwed. The she-wolf wonders if she should act nice, but immediately realizes that this trick won't work on him because this young man is not as easy to fool as children. So the creature with white fur closes her eyes and thinks about what to do. But suddenly Rachel grabs her and says, "It's just a dog." The guy asks what she's talking about. The little girl says that she will raise this dog, so let her brother not hurt her, because she knows a lot of cute moves. The young lady says that if he wants her to live with him, then he should be attentive to the dog, because she is not at all simple. The young man with black hair turns to Rachel, and he thinks why she is behaving like this, because this is the first time. But then this whole situation seems strange to him. He wonders where Eva went. And then he looks at the table and sees herbs scattered there. The bed was also dismantled, as if the girl had jumped up and run away in a hurry. And also, this dog had suddenly appeared. So the guy suddenly realizes that perhaps this dog is Eva. The main character understands that Noel is in a bad mood, and if nothing is done, he will explode with rage. The she-wolf already imagines this whole picture and wonders if it is possible to scare children with fire. So she decides to get out of Rachel's arms and realizes that she must prevent disaster at any cost. So she comes closer to the young man. He looks a little gloomy, but the main character does not stop. She places her paw on his shoe and mentally asks him to forgive her this time, and also asks if she is not cute. But the guy hardly reacts to this, so the she-wolf thinks that obviously this won't work, and she will have to accept death. And the most terrible thing is that she will plunge into eternal sleep in the form of a dog, or more precisely, a she-wolf. But Noel just says she's adorable. The young lady doesn't understand what he's talking about, and the guy just bends over and says he understands Rachel. He claims that the eye color and fur are the most beautiful he has ever seen. The young man smiles, and the main character understands that his mood has changed dramatically and wonders if she succeeded. The guy just pets the wolf and says that she is a special dog. The young lady is not thrilled about it, but she thinks that if the guy respects her, she won't mind being nice. The guy just smiles and thinks that she doesn't have to try so hard to pretend. But then he gets up and says he's going to go collect firewood. Rachel asks what about the puppy. Noel tells the girl to take care of him because the dog is clearly confused. The young lady only hugs the creature tighter and then asks when her brother will return. The guy claims that he can't do it quickly and he'll walk some more. He claims that it seems that Eva went for a walk, so Noel tells the kids to watch the house until he gets back. And then he leaves, closing the door behind him. But as soon as he does this, he immediately sits down on the threshold. The guy realizes that he barely restrained himself from attacking her and thinks that he never even knew that the girl was a wolf. If Rachel hadn't stopped him, he would have destroyed the she-wolf that very moment. The young man wonders what he should do now. After all, this rage and unconscious power cloud his mind and drive him crazy. Rachel meanwhile sighs, picks up the dog, and suggests they go get ready for bed. Zion asks why there is such a hurry, because he wants to play with the puppy, but the young lady says that the dog also needs to sleep. The boy with white hair is a little disappointed, and Rachel understands that this way, her sister will have time to return to her real form in a calm environment. After which, she calms down the she-wolf and says that it is time to watch dreams. The main character is very grateful to the little girl. Eva licks her and thinks that if the girl had not stopped Noel, she would not have survived. The young lady thanks the little girl in her thoughts, but the she-wolf still doesn't understand what she should do to return to her human form, because she has cooled Noel's ardor. But if she can't return to her previous form, it will be very bad. The girl understands that it's all because of drugs, and her eyes close on their own. The young lady thinks that maybe she shouldn't put pressure on herself and give herself some time to heal. When the kids fall asleep, she turns back, and her last thought before going to bed was what a hard day it had been. A little while later, Noel enters the room, sees the sleeping trio, and thinks that Eva has become human again. The guy opens it and thinks that the young lady must have panicked a lot when she saw that she had turned into a wolf. Although very cute, he sits down on a chair near the bed and thinks about how the girl will react to finding out that he knows. Noel wonders if she will run away. The guy realizes that he used Rachel first to get to know the girl better, as a pretext to establish contact with her. But he understands that if this lady were the wolf from the legend, he would have to take her heart to save his life. But since he was in love with her and decided to stay with her forever, all the emotions that were hidden deep in his heart began to manifest. The guy understands that he does not want to harm Eva and wants to be with her forever. But for this, something needs to be done so that Eva chooses him. Suddenly, the girl says in her sleep how cold she is. The guy puts his hand on her face and thinks that first he has to become someone she likes. He thinks that if he could control his powers himself, he would use them to warm the girl up. The main character almost wakes up from the touch, and the guy pulls his hand away. But the young lady only says that she is warm. The young man's hand, and in his sleep, pulls him closer, after which he is already hanging over her. The young man understands that his only heart beats for her. He becomes confused and realizes that it is either floating like the moon in the sky or flying down to the ground. In this awkward moment, he turned to God, whom he never believed in. The guy asks him to make Eve's choice fall on him, and the girl to love him as much as he loves her. In the morning, the main character wakes up and thinks that the weather is warmer that day. But then she remembers that she is in the north and there is no warm weather there, so the girl immediately jumps out of bed. But on her feet, she sees Noel, who is also holding her hand. The young lady is a little embarrassed and wonders why the young man with black hair is holding her hand in her sleep. And did he really spend the whole night like that, afraid that she would catch a cold again? Then the main character gets a little scared. After all, she's thinking about whether he saw her ears and tail. The girl is already imagining the worst possible options. She thinks that the young man will tie her up and interrogate her when he wakes up. The young lady does not understand what to do and whether she should run away. But then Noel wakes up. Eva just wishes him good morning, but then the guy grabs her hand tighter and asks if it's still cold. The main character asks him, a little embarrassed, what he's talking about, and the guy just has a sincere smile on his face. He says that Eva went out for a walk last night, and that's why her temperature dropped. The young lady only thinks that's what he's saying, and then she remembers that Noel thinks that yesterday she went for a walk, and then she screams that he is right. The girl claims that she walked for so long that she almost froze, and then cries out whether she held his hand all night. The young lady lets go of his hand and apologizes for causing trouble. The guy just thinks how cute she is, and a little while later, he is already on his way to do his business. The main character asks if Rachel's memory has returned, and if she will go home with her brother. But the little girl with a sad expression on her face says that she doesn't remember anything. Then the main character strokes her head and says that then she will have to stay with them. The young lady then turns to Noel and apologizes again for holding his hand for so long. The guy says it's okay, and Eva adds that he probably didn't get a good night's sleep because of it. And he says that if he suddenly needs help, he can say, the girl claims that she will do anything. The guy asks if it is true, and the young lady replies that she will try to do everything in her power. Then the young man bends down a little and says that if she doesn't mind, she could stroke his hair. Rachel is shocked that her brother has taken action and wonders why Noel is being so pushy today. The girl doesn't know what he's up to, but she decides to help. She says with a smile on her face that Zion is calling her, so she'll probably go. The main character thinks how awkward it is to be alone with this young man. But the guy just turns to Eva and says that the whole time he was holding her hand, he felt a little colder. The young lady thinks she got away with it and asks if they should hold hands then. The guy says it's a good idea, but if it touches his hair, it would be much better. He also asks with a sad expression on his face if it would be unpleasant for the girl to pet him. Eva blushes at this. She thinks what an attractive expression the guy has on his face. The young man says he understands how much he is asking for, but he just can't forget that cool moment when they were together. The main character just screams and tells him to stop doing strange things because they were just holding hands, and the children might misunderstand them if they hear them. But the young lady agrees and puts her hand on his head anyway. The guy blushes a little from this, and Ava's heart starts beating faster. The girl realizes that the wolf is now petting the dragon captain, while her heart beats faster and faster. The young lady thinks that she probably looks stupid. A few days later, she turns to the children and tells them not to take off their capes while they are in the square. The kids agree, and then they head to the market. The main character chooses what to buy. The girl thinks that something happened to the children while she was away from home, so she decided to take them for a walk on the condition that they would not leave her side. Suddenly, Zion turns to his sister. He points to one of the shops and suggests going there together. The main character asks if he wants to go to the bookstore. and she thinks whether she should buy a couple of books about the human world because she has wanted this for a long time. The girl agrees, but tells the guys to behave quietly, after which they go into the bookstore. The young lady understands that the children are delighted. The legs also need to be watched so that they do not take off the capes. Suddenly, the girl sees a book. She realizes that it is a romance novel for adults. The girl remembers that before she was born, she also read a novel, and the main character loved to shed tears in the eyes of his beloved. The young lady is wondering whether she should buy it, because she now has a lot of free time and money. The main character smiles and thinks that she is already an adult, and therefore can afford it. But suddenly, her gaze falls on an empty shelf, and the main character realizes that there are no books about the human world there. So she goes up to the shop assistant and says she doesn't see any books about the human world anywhere, and then asks if they're all sold. But the man only asks if she knew that they had been banned a long time ago. The young lady is shocked by this news, and the seller continues and says that it is all because of the mass and illegal migration into the human world. Their king was very angry, so these books were withdrawn from sale before the situation got worse. The man says that there is nothing to be done, and the main character understands that she ended up buying a book that did not interest her that much, and if they are stuck in the north for the rest of their lives, then what should she do? Rachel looks at her sister and then comes into her room in the evening. The girl uses her firepower and thinks that she definitely heard what Eva said about the human world. The little girl wonders if the girl wants to move there, but if that happens, they will never be able to see each other again. A little girl creates a bird with her powers and realizes that Eve must be stopped at any cost. The little girl tells the bird that she has a request, after which the bird points to the book that her sister bought that morning. The girl understands that since the young lady did not tell anyone about her, it means that this book is somehow connected with her plans to move, and the little girl needs to know what she is thinking about. But when she unfolds the book, she realizes that it is a romance novel for adults. Suddenly, while turning one of the pages, she comes across something that confuses her, after which Rachel turns over a few more pages, and then he hands the book to the phoenix and tells him to fill out this passage and then pass it on to his brother. The girl also claims that this must be done right now. The bird immediately obeys her and flies away. Then she flies into her brother's estate and tells him about all this. The guy only shakes a little from such news. He asks sheepishly if Eva really has such preferences. A little while later, he is already sitting with a book. The young man understood that since he intended to please Eva, he had to make every effort to become an attractive crybaby. So Noel read 10 stories that will bring you to tears. The guy screams what else can he do to burst into tears. He understands that there is no point in reading a bunch of sad stories. But then his gaze falls on a bird in the window. The young man realizes that it is Rachel's phoenix, so he allows it to fly inside. The bird then reveals a message from its owner. Rachel said the guy should immediately find out what type Eva is, and after the bird shows him what Rachel asked for, the guy is shocked. He now understands who Eva likes. Noel realizes that he has nothing in common with the ideal girl, but he thinks that now is not the time to learn to cry. It would be better to go and check with Eva herself. One of the servants asks his master to wait because it is night outside, but the main character only claims that he is going north. The servant asks if he is doing this again, believing that the master has only recently returned from there. The guy screams that the young man with black hair cannot go because he himself knows that he has an important meeting tomorrow. But the young man only claims that he will return soon and then turns into a dragon and flies away. The servant screams in shock, asking what has happened in the north if his master flies there almost every day. At this time, Rachel and Zion are playing outside. They invite their sister to play together. The girl refuses and says not to think about her, but just enjoy the game. The young lady understands that they should have been taken outside for a walk earlier because the boys are having a lot of fun. The main character sighs and thinks that she is even envious, although she also had a good time last night reading a novel. Completely lost track of time. Eva realized that this was the first time she had read such a novel since her rebirth, but at some point the young lady was stunned. She read the line where I said that he had been tormented all night by a flame raging in his chest. So the guy had come all this way to come to the young lady. The main character, already with shaking hands, reads that the young man had bronze skin and an attractive appearance. Then Eva thinks, what the hell, this is not her type at all. The girl hasn't read romantic stories about a prisoner for a long time, so it's her own fault for not checking the content beforehand. The young lady thinks that it's not that she doesn't like healthy guys, but she'd rather go with someone who could better evoke compassion in her. And if he's also handsome, she'll get 100 extra points. The girl likes guys with thin, long fingers, but in moderation, her ideal should be with dark hair and light skin color, and also with a gentle smile. If the young lady could choose, it would be someone like Noel, but the girl gets embarrassed and thinks what is wrong with her, and then decides to leave such thoughts behind. But suddenly, there is a noise from behind, and the main character wonders what happened, and when he turns around, he sees Noel. Then the girl asks if they have a meeting scheduled for today. The young man replies that no, and then thinks that if his memory serves him right, Zion said that Eve likes crybaby handsome men. However, Rachel showed a completely opposite image of this guy yesterday. I wonder who she really likes. But he thinks it's worth a try anyway, and then quotes one of the lines from the novel. Noel claims that he was tormented by a fire raging in his chest all night, which is why he came all this way to come to the young lady. The main character, all confused, asks what he is talking about, and she thinks what happened to him. But then she remembers that his words exactly repeat Hyena's line. And the lady with white hair wonders if it could be a coincidence, or maybe the guy had a fever. The young man approaches Eva and asks her to cool him down. The main character understands that the relationship is unlikely to work out because she is a she-wolf. Zion hands over the rope from the sauna and says that it's Ruby's turn, but the girl only looks at the two. The boy with white hair asks if Ruby can even hear him. The lady with black hair whispers and screams that she has shown how to behave to win a heart and asks what her brother is doing. After that, she screams louder that if it doesn't work, then at least he could have made the skin darker like that guy. She screams that she gave him the perfect tip, but the guy still screwed up, and it's a complete disappointment. In her thoughts, the girl adds that if her brother can't cope, then Eva will become her wife. Zion only whines and says that Rachel doesn't listen to him. Then he turns around and says he doesn't want to play with her anymore, and then leaves. The boy understands that sometimes the girl says things that he cannot understand. Of course, he wants to play with Rachel, and the girl played with him before. But now he almost cries, realizing that the young lady doesn't even pay attention to him. But then he pushes such thoughts away and thinks that he can entertain himself. He goes a little further and says that he doesn't care about Rachel anymore, and then she shouldn't even ask to play together. But then he sees a glass container with a crystal under his feet. The young man immediately bends down to her and thinks how beautiful this jar is, and hides behind the tree at his acquaintance. At this time, Noel is still asking Eva to cool him down, but the girl just covers his collar and thinks that he can't. The main character says that no matter how comfortable he is now, but you can't trust unbuttoning your shirt like that. The young man just sighs. He understands that Hyena's style doesn't suit him at all, so Eva won't like him. But then the girl puts her hand to his face and says that last time, he said he felt much better when she stroked him. Noel realizes that last time, he was so jealous of the children that he spoke without thinking. But the boy realizes that the young lady still remembers. The main character asks if it's better for him this way, and the guy thinks that in order to win the heart of such a gentle girl, he must try his best and learn more about her ideal type. The young man says that he really likes these touches, but he thinks it's terribly awkward. A little while later, the young lady removes her hand and asks if Noel is okay now. The young man says yes with a smile and thanks her. The main character reaches for his shirt. She says that the guy is missing one button and offers her help. The girl asks why he suddenly decided to unbutton his shirt and why his face is all red. The guy gets even more embarrassed and says that the weather is just too hot, and that's why he couldn't stand it. The boy wonders if that was rude, then covers his face with his hand and apologizes. He claims that next time he will be more careful, and if Eve doesn't like it when they blush with shame, then he will try to hide it. The main character doesn't even understand what to do, because she met her ideal for the first time. But he is a dragon. At this time, Zion picks up the bottle from the floor. He realizes that this stone is very beautiful and looks like Ruby's eyes, and it is also warm. So the boy with white hair decides that this stone can be taken home, but suddenly someone approaches the young man and greets him. The boy with white hair asks who this man is, and the guy with green hair replies that he is not a bad person. Zion thinks that he has a strange smile. He remembers that sister once said that you have to be careful with those who have too narrow eyes. So the young man says that sister told him not to communicate with strangers. The guy with green hair thinks that, of course, it will be difficult to fool this rascal. But fooling vigilant children is his thing. So the boy takes off his hood, and the boy with white hair is surprised by this. For this young man's hair changes its color to white. Zion admires this and says that the man's hair color has changed. The stranger asks if it's cool and says that it's his ability, because he is a chameleon. The boy with white hair asks in shock what it is. The man changes the color of his hands and says that they can change their color at any time. Then he thinks that the boy with white hair is already defeated, and now we can get down to business. The stranger asks what the young man is holding in his hand. Zion says that he picked it up by accident, and this bottle looks warm. The stranger asks if it is true, and if the boy with white hair will give it to his sister. Zion remembers his sister and looks sadly at the stone. The man thinks that soon the boy with white hair will completely submit to him. He claims that he knows a place where there are plenty of such things, but the baby with white hair just starts crying. The stranger screams in shock. Why is he crying? He certainly didn't expect this. And the little boy with white hair claims that his sister really likes Ruby. The man asks who it is, and the little boy with white hair says that sister said that Ruby is so warm that you can hug her every day. While he is just a cold little boy with white hair, the boy wonders if he has this thing, will his sister hug him? He says with tears in his eyes that his sister doesn't love him anymore, and that this can't be changed with some stone. The guy with green hair in shock asks Togo not to be sad. He himself even cried from this, because he can't look at other people's tears. The stranger, with tears in his eyes, cries out that he shouldn't think only about the bad, because sister, the boy with white hair, can't help but love him. The little boy with white hair also cries out in tears that his sister likes Ruby more. The man says that sister the boy with white hair loves him very much, and the baby with white hair will understand when he grows up. But Zion only asks what he should do now. Then the stranger tells him to remember that if you love someone, then just show it to them so that one day you will not regret it. After all this, the main character's brother blows his nose into a handkerchief, and the stranger tells him not to hate his sister. After all, she may not show it, but deep down she loves the boy with white hair very much. Zion says he understands. He also thanks the stranger and claims that he feels much better now. The guy with green hair says that it is nice, and then he claims that the stone is warm, and he is sure that his sister will be incredibly happy when the boy with white hair gives it to her, and then all his worries will disappear at once. Although it may hurt the kid a little, the guy with green hair understands that it is time to get back to work and finish the task, because if the boy with white hair takes the bait, it will be easier for him to get closer, and even with the girl, which is his goal. Colleagues asked Chameleon to take care of this, but suddenly he hears someone else's voice. It turns out to be Rachel. The girl asks why this man is there, and then he asks Zion why he left without saying anything, because of him, the young lady was unable to watch her sister and brother. The girl understood that the atmosphere between them was getting better, and it seemed that her sister had fallen in love with the young man's shyness. That's why the young lady told Zion that his sister's ideal type was not a hyena. But when she turned around, the boy with white hair was gone. The girl was almost weeding with rage. She said that even if the boy with white hair doesn't help, how could he leave silently? Now Rachel screams that he's leaving while she was running and looking for Zion. He's just having fun with someone he sees for the first time. The boy with white hair says that it is not so, but the young lady only advises the stranger to come up with a good explanation before approaching her. Then the boy with white hair immediately goes to Rachel, and the guy with green hair thinks what a traitor he is. Then the young lady asks Zion who this man is, and then looks at the stranger and tells him to tell her everything he knows. The guy thinks that until he went there, everyone was sitting on pins and needles, since now not only the young lady was missing, but the captain had not returned from the north. One of the servants claimed that he had a feeling that their master was secretly raising a pet there. His colleagues asked him what he was talking about and whether he was sure of his words. The young man said that, of course, he would never make any claims without evidence, but not only does he visit there often, he also buys up mountains of romance novels. The guy with green hair didn't even listen to what was being said, but then someone shouted his name and told him to go north. The green-haired boy only asks who is knocking there while he is sleeping. but he immediately gets hit on the head with a scroll. His colleague screams that he told him not to sleep during the meeting. He says that the next time the captain goes north, let the guy with green hair secretly follow him. The guy asks why he should do this, but his colleague only hands over a jar with a precious stone and tells Chameleon to try to get close to the man who is close to the captain and use this stone. After all, this stone, purified by the captain's inner strength, can be very dangerous for an ordinary person, but they are able to withstand more than an ordinary person. He also adds that more power was added to this stone to increase its harmful effect, and the green-haired boy must remember that he must never let young Miss Rachel touch this stone, as its fire attribute is similar to her flames. If the woman the captain met is worthy of becoming his life partner, then touching the stone, she will absorb all its power into her body. But the guy with green hair asks if he will be touched by a simple one. His colleague replies that obviously then she won't be able to cope with him and will burn to the ground. Now the boy with white hair thinks that this will make the girl very angry, but he only apologizes. And then she says that there was no other choice, since she and the captain had been absent for a long time. Rachel realizes that these scumbags are using her brother's power to test Eva. Her sister has been very kind to her, and the girl does not want to put her at risk. So the young lady turns to Zion, and he says to give her the stone, because it is a very dangerous thing, and it is better for it to stay with her. The boy with white hair holds out the stone to her hands, and Carmel is already clutching her head. He understands that the young lady cannot touch the stone, and if the attribute of fire collides with her flame, then the young lady will be in danger. So he immediately snatches the stone from her hands. The girl asks what he is doing, and orders him to return the thing. The guy with green hair thinks that the young lady will take it away. The girl only screams for him to give it back quickly, and the stranger thinks that if things continue like this, sooner or later he will end up with her, and the only solution is to swallow him. So the guy thinks he can handle it and immediately throws the stone into his mouth. Rachel screams at him for being an idiot and to spit it out, but the green-haired guy just moves back. Rachel tells him to spit it out again, but he doesn't agree because it would be more dangerous if he ended up with the girl. Then the little girl uses her firepower and says that if he doesn't spit it out, she will have to resort to force. But then the stranger swallows the stone and sighs. Rachel wonders if he's gone crazy. After all, if the guy swallowed it, it's very bad. Black energy starts coming out of Chameleon's mouth. He turns to the young lady and asks her to help him. Rachel only takes a step back. She thinks how terrible it is, and since the stranger swallowed the stone with her brother's strength, he will soon die. The fear that the young lady had forgotten flares up again in her. This nightmare reminds her of the old days in the north. The little girl realizes that she is very scared, and she doesn't want it to end this way. But suddenly, someone puts their hand on hers. It turns out to be Zion. The boy with white hair tells Rachel not to be afraid, because he will protect her. The young lady understands that the little boy with white hair is shaking with fear, but he still tries to protect her. So the girl tries to calm down and understands that if she gives in to fear, then Zion will also be in danger. So she tells the boy with white hair to stand behind her and uses the power of fire. She tells Carmel that it will hurt, but suddenly someone flies past the two and hits Chameleon's head. Carmel comes to her senses and wonders what it was, but when she looks at her feet, she sees a frozen stone. The girl says that someone is trying to destroy their peaceful life, and for this he even made such a long journey deep into the forest. Ava screams at the stranger not to touch her children and asks how he dares to do this. And who do you think you are? Noel also comes up from behind. He is a little worried about Eva. The girl just screams that she will show the stranger who he ran into. Rachel cherishes her sister and says that it is dangerous. But then the main character realizes that the body is unusually hot, and when the guy grabs her hand, then a little dark energy passes to her. Noel runs up to the lady with white hair. He asks if Eva is okay. The girl says that she is, and only her clothes are a little singed. The young man with black hair asks what the hell Carmel is doing there, and then claims that, judging by his condition, he ate the red stone. Rachel says she thought they were in danger, so she used her powers. And Noel asks why he is there, and the main character asks if the young man with black hair knows him. The guy claims that it must have been the stone with its power, because looking at the state of the chameleon, it is clear that there was a lot of it there. And if nothing is done, Carmel's life will be in danger. But Noel clenches his fists and doesn't understand what he can do. At this time, the main character runs up to that guy and starts using her power on him. The young man with black hair screams that it is dangerous, but the young lady claims that she can't let him die. Her magic will take the heat out of him, so it's worth a try. The girl tries her best to do this, and Noel thinks how this is possible. A little while later, Carmel wakes up in bed. He turns around, or doesn't understand where he is. The guy wonders if he is dead. But suddenly, someone enters the room and says that the stranger has finally woken up. It turns out it's the main character. She asks if everything is okay. The guy is a little shocked by this, and the young lady comes up to him and puts her hand on his forehead, then claims that there is no fever. The guy is a little embarrassed and wonders if this is an angel. Eva hands him the medicine and offers him to drink it, because it will help to get rid of the remaining heat. The guy with green hair thanks her, and then he concludes that he is in heaven, because there are no bosses or work problems there. But then he hears another voice that tells Eve that he brought that plant. Carmel wonders if this angel's name is Eve, but then she sees her boss there and is surprised. The young man asks if Eva told her about this plant. The main character is surprised and says that it is the best, and she will go make a decoction. Carmel, in her thoughts, asks the angel not to leave, but the girl leaves the room, and the chameleon is approached by his boss. Noel says that he now wants to hear his excuses. The guy with green hair immediately kneels and asks for forgiveness, because they only wanted to bring the captain back. The guy claims that he won't blame anyone for this, and understands perfectly well that the guy with green hair was worried about him, which is why he did it. He puts his hand on his shoulder and says that the main problem is that Eva and the children almost got hurt. Carmel immediately hits her forehead on the floor and cries out that he is sorry and is ready to atone for his sin with his life. But then the main character enters the room and asks why. Noel understands that he needs to show himself from a good side. He can't let what happened ruin everything, and even if he's not her perfect crew, he should at least hide his flaws. So the young man puts his hand on the chameleon's head and cries out that his temperature is rising again, so he'd better lie back down. Carmel is shocked and doesn't understand what happened until his black-haired boyfriend picks him up and says he'll bring a bag of ice. A little while later, the guy with green hair is already sitting with a mug of medicine and a bag of ice. He doesn't understand what happened to his boss. After all, the young man with black hair seems to be pretending. But Carmel remembers that this girl saved him. However, ice magic is a wolf ability, so he asks if the girl used magic to reduce the fever back then. The main character replies that it was so. Then, Carmel asks if the young lady is a wolf. The main character wonders why this happens every time she meets someone from the south. The young lady just smiles awkwardly and tries to justify herself. But suddenly, someone enters the room and calls her brother. It turns out to be Zion. The boy with white hair asks if the boy with green hair is okay, because he was very surprised when the boy fell. Carmel claims that he is okay, and the young lady thinks that her little brother has arrived just in time. Rachel smiles from behind. The girl turns to her sister and asks her to hug her because she is hot. Eva extends her arms and asks if this is true. Noel smiles at this, and Rachel thinks that since her brother can't cope on his own, she will help, and that's enough of this nonsense. The main character asks if Rachel is better. The little girl answers that everything is fine, and she calls her brother to her. She claims that her brother is also hot and suggests that they all hug together. Eva is a little embarrassed and asks if the little girl likes to hug. The young lady replies that she does. Carmel just watches them and then asks the boy with white hair what the relationship is between them. The main character says that they were brought together by circumstances and there is no relationship. Rachel just hugs the girl and says that she is her sister, and she looks at the chameleon with a smile. And then he claims that the girl is also his brother's friend. The main character is shocked and wonders what the little girl said and whether she understood correctly. The girl already imagines how it will be with Noel, but then tries to push these thoughts away and realizes that she seems to have heard incorrectly. After all, in order to call her a friend, there must be something between them, but there is nothing. Eva tries to pull herself together and think carefully about the connection. Maybe the little girl meant a friendly relationship. There are cultural differences between the North and the South, and yet the word voice can have different meanings depending on the nationality of the speaker. For example, in the West, tigers eat grass. The girl takes the baby in her arms and thinks that it cannot be otherwise, and she must explain everything clearly to Rachel. Then Zion only asks if his sister is now Noel's friend, because if so, Then he can call the chameleon his friend. He then hugs the guy and says he's his new friend. Carmel laughs a little awkwardly, and then he says that, judging by the way their young mistress treats them, these guys can't be wolves. Then he asks to forgive him for the impolite question. The young lady looks at the brunette and wonders why he is not surprised at all. And when their eyes meet, the young man turns away in embarrassment. The main character understands that, looking at him, you can't tell that something is wrong, so she thinks about how to understand the fact that she called her a friend. Rachel just looks at the young lady and asks for another hug. Ava then thinks that this is just a child, and it is impossible that she would put such a meaning into the word, so she will have to ask Noel later. A little while later, Eva asks if it is time for Carmel to go back. The guys answer that, yes, and he is much better, so he does not want to cause them any more inconvenience. Then the girl invites him to have dinner with them and then leave, because the guy is probably hungry. Carmel just says that it's okay, and he'll buy food on the way home. After which, they say goodbye to the chameleon. Ava tells him to take care of himself, and next time if he passes by, to grab it. But then the young lady thinks that perhaps there will not be a next time, because of such a short time she met the Southerners. And yet she wonders if the word girlfriend means the same thing in the South as it does in the North. So she turns to Noel and says she's curious about something. Then the girl asks, is it possible that Southerners and Northerners use the same words to mean different things? For example, the word girlfriend. The guy just looks at her and says that he's in the South, but then asks where Rachel went. The main character also notices this and asks where she is. Then Noel says that he will go look, and he thinks that the girl is seeing Carmel off. The young lady says that she will then go around the neighborhood. The girl thinks that he has not answered, and it can be considered that this word does not mean anything special. So she decides to ask. Carmel is walking through the forest. He says that it is suspicious that the captain now has a girlfriend. The guy with green hair immediately understands that, in other words, this girl is his future life partner, and soon everything will change. The guy understands that he must return and tell the people of the South about this as soon as possible. After all, they must know that their captain is going to bring his life partner and her brother to the South. But suddenly, Phoenix Rachel flies up to him. The guy understands that this is the mistress's bird, and when he turns around, he sees the boss and his sister behind him. Then, the guy asks the captain if that benefactor is his future companion. The guy with green hair says that he will return home but his boss interrupts and asks what Carmel thinks of Eva's powers. The guy claims that she has the most powerful ice magic he has ever seen, and then he screams that this is why they must bring her to the South as soon as possible so that the girl can help them. But Noel only tells him to calm down, and first they need to make some preparations. He tells the guy to imagine for himself, because a dragon suddenly appears in the north and forces its inhabitants to go with him to the south, how he thinks these guys will act. But perhaps they will run away from fear. The green-haired boy says he will speak to their people so that the benefactor and her brother will be given a proper welcome. Rachel says that is right, and her brother adds that there is one more thing. After all, what will the Southerners think if Eva and her brother are presented as mages from the north? Perhaps they will be mistaken for wolves, since mages often are. Then the guy with green hair understands the situation and says that he means to explain to them that these guys are not wolves to avoid misunderstandings. Noel says that this is exactly what is needed, and the guy is very smart, so he completely trusts Carmel with this task. The young man with black hair claims that it will be very difficult, but he should cope. Then he asks if the guy can do it. The guy with green hair says that he will try his best so that no one will think that the benefactor and her brother are wolves. Noel says that it is good, and he is counting on Carmel. Then he goes to the estate. His colleague asks if the guy has met a man who can control the captain's inner fire. The guy with green hair replies that it is true, and he saw it himself, and also the girl lives in the north. The man says it is very strange and hard to believe that there is so much ice that he has never encountered. After which he asks Carmel where this girl lives, because he has to check everything himself and find out if it's really a man. The guy with green hair asks what he's talking about and if the man is heading north now. But in response, he only hears yes. No matter how you look at this situation, it seems very strange. The man finds it hard to believe that there is a wave of ice that he has never met. One day, the flames engulfed the south, and everyone was overcome with sadness. On the day the previous lord and his wife died from the current lord's uncontrollable power, he swore to himself that he would do anything for their lord and young mistress. To help him, he gathered the greatest ice mages from all over the world, and he even entered into a secret conspiracy with the half-breed wolf, but it was all in vain. And now suddenly, a magician appeared who could control the lord's power. The guy understands that this must be a trick of the vile wolves because the legend said so. The servant understands that he is obliged to protect their master. A little while later, the main character enters a bookstore. She asks if there is anything suitable. The young lady replies that she usually buys books at this place, and there is a large selection. The girl says it would be great if the kids had some good children's books. Noel says he thinks so too, but Eva says that since they reduced his assortment, she can't even find anything for herself. When the guy asks what she's looking for, and the young lady replies that she is looking for books about the human world, and she wants to understand if those will help her get there. Then the girl thinks that it would be good to learn how to pretend to be human. The main character asks if there are many such books in the South, and then whispers that since he is the head of the South, he must have a personal library. The young man, with a smile on his face, says that he is not sure because he has never asked about her. Then the girl asks if it happens that in the North and South, the same word has different meanings depending on the situation. The guy asks what she's talking about, and the main character again talks about the word girlfriend. She says that they use it for their brother's wife. And when Rachel called her that, she and Carmel didn't react at all. The guy just kept silent about the main character, and then said that it wasn't worth asking because it was obvious. But Noel only turns to Eva and says, a little embarrassed, that the word friend practically means that. Then the main character is a little surprised and screams, "What is he talking about?" The girl ponders whether she thought correctly and does not understand why Rachel called her that. The little girl just eats quietly, and Eva continues her thoughts. She wonders why no one reacted to this, but then she sighs heavily. Noel says he's sorry the girl found herself in such an awkward situation, and he should have corrected Rachel, but he couldn't open it. The main character just raises her head, and the young man adds that he hoped that these words will become reality. Then the young lady asks, a little embarrassed, what is he talking about? And the young man claims that he is sure that the young lady noticed that he cannot control his powers very well. Because of this, he put her and his people in danger, and also caused great disasters in the South. The guy clenches his fists and says that his parents died, and it's all because he was born with one heart. The girl says that dragons are usually born with two and can control their powers. The young man says that this is true, but he also became the cause of suffering for those around him. Therefore, fear consumes Noel more and more the more valuable things he loses. He can't stop thinking that it could happen again, because many people tried to help him, but nothing worked, and in the end, the only solution was that he is forced to wear various restraints. But the stronger he becomes, the more difficult it is for him to control. And then he met Eve, and when they touched each other, a sudden rush of all-consuming power enveloped him. No one could control his power like this young lady. So in the end, even though it was childish, he could only ask her to stroke his hair. It was only then that he felt how rare the cold was for him, which was why he didn't object when Rachel called her a friend. The guy looks into his cup and thinks that the most important thing he couldn't say was how much he liked their hugs. The young man claims that he probably caused them a lot of trouble. The main character says that it is nothing and he can explain himself to that guy later. However, everything now became clear and good to the girl. That her power, which she considered useless, could help Noel. But Eva is just a minor character who quickly disappeared from the plot. For herself, who was burned, and for Zion, who suffered. Therefore, the girl cannot agree to help Noel just because of a dull sympathy for her. And since Rachel's memories have returned, she can go to the South. And she must think about how they can get to the human world before it becomes even more difficult. The only thing she can do for Noel, this is hoping that he will find his soulmate. Well, suddenly, the main character's hand twitches. The girl does not understand why everything in her chest suddenly tightens so much. At this time, the same servant from the estate wanders around the north. He thinks why it is so damn cold in the north. The man thinks how careless he was not to think about the weather before heading north, because he has no money with him, so he can't even buy basic winter clothes. He had already approached one saleswoman, who asked if he had taken money with him, The man claimed that he would honestly return and pay, so can the woman give him a loan? Natalia screams, does he take her for an idiot? And then he calls the servant a fraud and tells him to get lost. The man is shocked by this and curses the damn wolves. And he also screams furiously that this weather suits them. But before he can finish his sentence, he sneezes. The man thinks that it is so cold there that the fire does not light, and no matter what happens, the wolves will never win his heart. He can't believe that the captain's other half lives in such a place, and she must have used a clever trick. Suddenly, someone turns to Uncle and asks if he is cold. It turns out to be Zion. The man thinks it's just a curious wolf cub and waves the little one forward. But the boy with white hair says he looks cold and has snot running from his nose. The servant cries out that nothing is flowing, and the young man does not even know who he is. The man claims that their weather is terrible, and the boy with white hair only takes off his scarf and says that he will give it back. The servant refuses and says that he doesn't feel the cold, but thinks how warm this scarf is. Well, it still needs to be returned. However, the man still says that he will lend the scarf for a short time, and Zion is happy about this, after which he takes the servant by the hand, and the man asks if the boy with white hair has lost his sister. Zion claims that there is, after all, and he chased the kitten, after which he got lost, without realizing it, and also lost his brother and Ruby. The man understands that this is the missing child. He says that the boy with white hair gave him the scarf so that he could find his sister, and claims that he is such a naughty boy. But Zion says that it is not true, and he would have given this scarf even if he had not been lost, because his uncle also offered to help him when he found out that he was in trouble. The boy with white hair continues his speech and claims that his sister says that if you treat someone kindly, then one day it will pay off, and since his uncle helped him, God will bless him for it. The man did not expect to meet such a kind child in the north, and it did not matter whether he was a wolf. The servant swears on his honor that he will not leave him until they find his sister. But suddenly, the young man cries out that here is his sister. The man thinks how everything was resolved so simply, and the young lady screams how much longer she has to tell Zion not to run away alone. The man realizes that the girl is the older sister of the boy with white hair, but then behind him, he sees the captain and Mrs. Rachel. The man immediately approaches the wall and wonders why he is there. But then the realization comes to him that this is the very companion that Carmel was talking about. So he asks the boy with white hair if this girl is his sister. The boy with white hair says that she is, and the man then asks if this is the girl who said, "If you are kind to someone, one day it will be rewarded." The servant understands that such an elegant and kind girl is definitely a human being. Therefore, he is a little sorry that he suspected her. The captain stared at him like that. The man turns to the boy with white hair and thanks him, then states that kindness is rewarded, and he is sure that the young man will receive it soon. After which he puts his hand on the baby's head and leaves. Zion cries out too. The uncle took the scarf with himself, and the man turns around and confidently thanks the boy with white hair. He claims that he no longer feels cold, and then leaves. The main character thinks that this man does not seem strange. Rachel realizes that it seems like Zion really liked this one. The servant and the lady with white hair suggests going to the store and then going home. Everyone agrees. A little while later, the main character is already going out with her purchases. She thought that she would have to search until the end of the day. Zion wouldn't be able to buy food, but the kids were real helpers. The boy with white hair said that he and Ruby would buy meat, and Noel claimed that he would keep an eye on them. And then the girl remembers what Noel said in the morning. The young lady thinks whether it would be right to ignore his words, but suddenly she hears someone screaming. And when the girl goes around the corner, she sees several men. One of them asks if the girl thinks she can just run away from them. The young lady just screams that she didn't catch anyone's eye and didn't cause any trouble. She doesn't understand why the guys suddenly started behaving like that. The girl also screams why only half-breeds are arrested and interrogated. The main character a little shocked, thinking that she hadn't heard about half-breeds being arrested, and the girl screams that this is discrimination. Then one of them turns to the captain, Edu. The main character thinks whether the half-breed wolves will be arrested, but she doesn't understand why so suddenly. At this time, the guy turns to the young lady and asks if he wants to say that because of her, they didn't have any troubles and losses, but then who was sneaking into the human world and jeopardizing the wolves' reputation? Another young man claims that his blood boils at the mere thought that the damned humans could despise them and raise his hand to hit a girl. But suddenly, the captain tells him to stop, because he wants to ask the young lady a question, after which he claims that if the girl agrees to cooperate, then she and her brother will be safe. Then the captain asks if she knows a half-blood brother and sister who have white hair and rare blue eyes. He tells the girl to tell him everything she knows about them, but suddenly an apple falls from around the corner and one of the guys asks who. The girl quickly runs around the corner. She hopes that she simply misunderstood and that they are not looking for her and Zion, because they have been living in solitude for a long time. But the guy said that half-breeds have white hair and rare blue eyes. That's why the girl thinks that maybe they are still looking for them, after which she imagines the worst possible outcome. The girl is very scared and thinks that she needs to leave the north as soon as possible, but she doesn't understand how to do this and what illegal methods of migration exist. She arranges the books on the table and realizes that they can't just move to another place without first getting permission. Eva thinks that she will do anything to get out of there with Zion. But suddenly, someone turns to the main character. It turns out to be Noel. He claims that the girl came home before them. The guy asks what she was doing and if Eva needs help. Then the girl is a little embarrassed. She says she was just looking for something and thinks she'll be done soon, so she asks if Noel can wait in the hall for now. The guy only sees the books of people and tries to ask Eva about it, but Rachel gets ahead of him and asks if the girl wants to move to the human world. The main character says with a smile that this is not true, but the girl says that there is no need to hide this from them, because they know that Eva is trying to find a way to get there. The lady with white hair thinks how they knew and how much they know about it, and they may even know that they are wolves. Rachel says she understands, as it must be hard for a young lady to live in a foreign land for so long. So she asks if the girl will go with her, as she and her brother were once in the human world, so they know how to get there. The main character in shock asks if Rachel has regained her memory. The little girl says that her memories are blurry, so she is not sure that she has fully remembered everything. And if the girl is not mistaken, then Noel once told that in the South, there is a passage leading to the world of people. And, in other words, it is easier to get there through the South. The young man understands what his sister is hinting at. Therefore, he claims that she is right, because they signed an agreement and built a steamship to make it easier for residents to travel. The main character is shocked by such words. After all, according to these two, an illegal way of immigration really does exist, but the girl does not understand whether she can be sure that the South is safe for them. After all, they don't yet know who Eva and Zion really are. But suddenly, Noel addresses her by name. He grabs the girl's hand and asks if the young lady will do him the honor of escorting her and Zion to the human world. The main character thinks how warm he is, and the guy continues and says that he will not allow others to spread gossip about them being wolves just because they came from the north, and will also protect them from all adversity. Eva thanks him for his kindness, but asks if it won't be a burden to them, since they helped her a lot with Zion without it. But Noel says not to worry about it. He puts his hand on the baby's head and says that he will take advantage of her situation to take Rachel home to the South, and that is enough for him. But the little girl sees that Zion is a little worried, so she decides to approach him. The young lady says that on the way they can stop by their house. Ona hugs the boy and says that she wants to see her sister and Zion as much as possible. The boy with white hair says that he also wants to be with Ruby. Eva thinks that this may be her last chance. If they continue to doubt, the only way to the South will close. They will see each other less often and eventually become strangers to each other, because children quickly forget everything, including promises that are forgotten. Rachel smiles and thinks that she will never allow the young lady to go to the human world, because very soon she will become her relative. Noel, with a smile on his face, says that he will instruct his men to escort the young lady and Zion to the South as soon as possible, and the little girl understands that the girl will not get into the human world because she will make her fall in love with the South and forget about everything else. At this time, the captain is told that they have brought the man he wanted to see, after which the guy says that he will search for this man to come in. He asks if this guy's a herbalist. Then the boy asks where the herbalist got the herb from. The purple-haired guy says it's from the doctor, and he thought the herb was good for immunity, so he bought it. The boys say he's pleased with the doctor's kindness and dedication, so he wants to give him a chance to start over. But the person standing in front of him is not a doctor. but a simple distributor, and he claims that he understands that the young man was driven to do this by need. And then he throws a bag of money at his feet and tells him to tell everything about the man who gave him this herb. And the more details, the better. The boy with purple hair looks at this money. He understands that it will be to his advantage to tell, so he starts talking. The guy claims that he did not see the man's face clearly because he wore a mask at every meeting, but he is quite thin, and although he insisted that he was a man, it was most likely a girl. The guy claims that he does not know whether she intended to speak in a low voice, but it sounded quite tense. This girl had white hair, if he is not mistaken. The captain's words claim that the boy's testimony will clash with the report of one businessman. The young man says that this is good, and it seems that it is one and the same person. The purple-haired guy asks what he's talking about, and the captain replies that the man they're looking for is suspected of helping illegally migrate to the human world, and the guy with purple hair is one of those who helped her in this crime. That's why the captain says to take him away. As the young man is led away, the captain leans back in his chair and sighs, holding someone's photograph in his hands, and he claims that now he can finally help Eva. At this time, the main character talks to Noel. The guy says that before moving to the new house, some formalities need to be sorted out, so he will return to the south for a couple of days to prepare everything. But it will not take much time, and the young man claims that he will come for her as soon as possible. The main character says that she will wait, but then seeing the guy fly away in the form of a dragon, she is a little surprised. She thinks how beautiful it is, and if she and Zion manage to get out of the north, then they will be able to live independently. She heard that there is a large desert in the west. The girl understands that Zion likes warm places, so it would be great to clean up at her place and enjoy life. But first, they will need to figure out how to get out of the south. After all, if Rachel returns home safe and sound, they will no longer need to meet, which means the guy will not lead them into the human world. The main character sighs and thinks how stupid she is, because she can't even take care of herself, let alone others if one day Noel meets his destiny. Then he won't need her powers anymore. But until they get to the human world, then the young lady will need help when Noel asks, and this will be payment for all the good he did to them. At this time, the captain of the north is asked if he will go to investigate today. The guy says yes. After all, this is his first job as captain, and he can't shirk, because he is responsible for the execution. The servant says that he will try very hard. The guy looks at Eva's photo and says that since they're going to go outside anyway, he wants to look at that place first. But suddenly, someone shouts to the captain that they have urgent news. One of the servants asks if the guy has lost his mind and how he dares to burst into the captain's office without permission. The gray-haired young man tells him that there is no need to make a mountain out of a molehill, and surely something important forced the guy to behave like that. The servant asks for forgiveness and says that a letter came from the captain of the dragons. The gray-haired youth thinks of the captain of the north. The sheet stated that he and his subordinates were going to visit the northern people in 3 days, and the location information would be described below. Therefore, the captain can get acquainted and give consent, since they will not be there for long, so special welcoming ceremonies are not necessary. Slug says that even though this is a letter from the captain, how can one address them like that? Because it is complete disrespect for the north. The gray-haired youth puts the leaf to his face and says that his servant is right, because the captain clearly despises them. Moreover, it is very suspicious that he asks them not to hold a welcoming ceremony. Am I arrogant and powerful? Dragons would do such a thing. He gets angry and tells his servant to cancel some special events for the next 3 days. He wonders what this damn dragon wants, so he decides to see it with his own eyes. The young lady is packing her things at this time. Zion tells her sister that they have packed all their things, and can they go play now? The main character asks if this is true, and says that she will check now. But the children do not listen to her and run out into the street. Ava looks at the almost empty room and thinks that they won't need many things to start with, because they can buy everything they need in the human world. But suddenly, she hears her brother scream. The young lady immediately runs outside and asks what happened. She uses her ice power preparing to attack, but Zion only looks on in surprise. The girl, seeing that many dragons have flown towards her in the air, thinks what is going on. But then he turns to her. Noel says that he came to pick up the girl. The main character in shock asks who these people are. Then the guy asks to forgive them for the sudden visit and says that they are his most trusted people. They will help them get to the south as quickly as possible, and there are not many of them. But the young man thinks that they will be able to transport all the things. The guy says that the packing must have tired Eva out, so he suggests that she go and relax with the kids and leave the rest to them. The young lady doesn't understand what he's talking about. But then Zion turns to her and asks his sister if they will leave the north now. The girl asks if he will miss her, and the little boy with white hair answers no, and then approaches the young lady. And he whispers in her ear that as long as she is with him, it doesn't matter where they are. The main character hugs him and says that she does too, and very soon they will move to a warm place that Zion will like. But suddenly, Eva hears other dragons talking, saying what a wonderful family bond it is. One of the dragons says, with tears in his eyes, that he has lived only in the south since childhood, so he has no idea what the north is like. But it looks amazing. The main character realizes that she forgot that they are not alone there. The girl thinks that she needs to be more careful, but suddenly, another dragon calls his colleague an idiot and asks if he thinks that his companion is living alone in the forest with her brother just like that. The young lady is shocked, and the other dragon says that his colleague is right, and she has a great selection of delicious places to live, and in his opinion, it would be ideal to hold their wedding there. The main character almost turns to stone from such words, and the dragons at this time continue to talk and claim that the ceremony should take place in the south. Eva wonders why the Southerners are already calling her their life partner. The girl does not understand where this rumor came from and what she should do, because she needs to explain everything to the dragons. Well, suddenly the young lady hears someone's voice. The guy says that when he read that, the captain doesn't want any welcoming ceremonies. Then he became curious about what urgent matter forced him to hurry so much. It turns out to be the captain of the North, Ed. He says that now everything is clear, and the one responsible for illegal immigration is in the South. Ed says that Noel even gave them false coordinates to deflect suspicion, so the wolf captain asks if he thought they would fall for it and wait there. He also states that it is now clear how much the dragon captain despises wolves. The gray-haired boy furiously asks why Noel wants to take the Northerners with him to the South, and whether he plans to get information about the wolves from them. He claims that he would never have thought that he would resort to such a method. But suddenly, the young man's gaze falls on the main character, which makes him a little embarrassed, and he asks if the girl's name is Eva. The main character is scared by this, and the captain says that there can be no mistake. He begins to approach the young lady and says that it is really her, and that he has finally found Eva. But suddenly, Noel grabs his hand. The wolf captain turns around and asks him what he wants, and then he tells her to take her hand away, but Eva only asks why he is there. The girl claims that they lived in isolation as Ed wanted. Zion worries about his sister, and the main character screams asking to leave them alone. The guy is shocked by this. He asks why the girl is suddenly angry at him, and then turns to Noel and screams at him to let him go. The girl says that it's all because he was the one who told them to get out of sight, and they did as the captain said. So Eva says to stop bothering them. The guy is silent at first, and then says that everything is as he thought, because he and his brother wanted to illegally move to the human world. The main character remembers that girl. She wonders if the guy was really looking for them. The young lady asks what the wolf captain wants, and he replies that he simply missed her. Eva, shocked, asks what he's talking about, and the guy continues and asks if the Southerners agreed to help them get into the human world in exchange for a favor for them, and if the reason for her desire to leave there is a misunderstanding between them when they were younger, then now she has nothing to worry about. Ed says that he has changed a lot, and now he has the strength to take the girl under his wing. But suddenly, Noel comes up from behind and says that there must be some mistake, because Eva is not leaving for the human world, and to the south with him. The captain of the wolves only smiles and says what nonsense this is, and then he asks how the guy knows that she wants to go south and not to people. But the main character from behind says that Noel knows from her. The girl claims that she doesn't care whether Ed has changed or what power he has received. She just doesn't want to be there anymore. The young lady asks if he were in her place. He would want to continue living in restrictions, but then Ed asks why now, when he worked his ass off to get this job, because he knew that Eva had suffered enough from racism. The main character is a little scared, she thinks, whether the guy is going to tell that they are half-breeds. The young man with gray hair continues to speak, and Eva mentally asked him to shut up right now. After all, if all these people find out who they are, then she and Zion could die. But suddenly Rachel comes. She points to the girl and tells Carmel that this is her sister. The guy with green hair says with a smile, "Here is the lady life partner." He comes closer to Eva, and he says that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and then apologizes for keeping you waiting. Carmel claims that their things are already loaded onto the transport, and it's time to go. But then you notice that the atmosphere there is a little strange. The captain of the wolves, in shock, asks if Eva is the life partner of Captain South. The main character doubts a little, but then says that everything is so. She passes Ed and claims to be Noel's companion. The guy is shocked by this. The main character approaches the captain of the South and whispers to ask him to forgive her. She is shaking all over, and he says that this is the only way to make Ed leave them alone. And the girl promises that she will explain everything as soon as they arrive in the South. Ava says she's incredibly sorry to bother Noel again, but the guy just smiles. And then, using his power, he says that he understood her. He creates a large phoenix and says that it is time for him and his beloved to set off on their journey. The knights agree and begin to transform into dragons, but the captain of the North screams for them to stop immediately. He screams at Eva to tell the truth and asks if Noel threatened her. He also screams that this guy is dangerous. And the girl doesn't even imagine what kind of abominations dragons are capable of. But the young lady doesn't think so. She furiously replies that Ed is the one who made her life miserable, and he is much more vile. The young man looks very hurt by this. He watches the dragons fly away and is lost in his thoughts. He understands that he cannot protect her now. The boy's father, a former captain of the North, taught him that half-breeds are not wolves. Everyone around the guy belittled them, so that's what he did though, when his and Eve's eyes first met. Who knew that the girl, only half despised, was a wolf? But he couldn't help but be charmed by her. At that time, the boy was too young to understand that he was attached to her. Ida was tormented by guilt for her feelings for the half-breed. The guy was scared because many were watching him. But even so, he has no forgiveness for what he did to the young lady. And from that moment on, he lived in regret. On the way home, the boy with white hair decided that he had to grow up quickly and become a captain. So that no one could hurt Ava again, the guy understood that he would definitely make sure that the young lady would be close by under his protection. Now he tells his servants to return. One of them asks if they should go in pursuit. Well, the captain just asks if it is possible to catch those who fly and claims that they are powerless there. He turns around and says that therefore, let the wards choose a couple of smart and proven subordinates to go after the dragons secretly. The guy thinks that Eva's only half-wolf, so her power can get out of control. And who knows if those cruel dragons will take advantage of the young lady's weakness to brainwash her. Ed, he understands that now he can only continue to look for her. At this time, the main character and the guys are flying on a phoenix. The girl understands that they are finally flying to the south. The main character did not think that she would have to go to the lands of dragons of her own free will. Ava sighs and realizes that life is full of surprises. Suddenly, Noel turns to her. The guy claims that they are almost there and asks the young lady to look down because the view is so beautiful. The main character asks if it is really possible from such a height. Then Noel says that if she doesn't mind, then blushing and stuttering. He adds that he can hold her hand. Rachel puts her hands on her face at this, and she thinks her brother is hopeless. The main character's wife asks if the guy has a fever. The young man replies that it's not like that, and he just wants the young lady to enjoy the view from there. He wants to show the girl many beautiful things, because she trusted him and came to the south. The guy says he hopes Eva will only have happy memories before being sent to the human world. The main character thinks that Noel is very kind, but wonders if he will remain so if he finds out that the young lady is a half-breed. He didn't suspect anything before, but when he discovers the truth, everything could end badly. Rachel turns to her sister and says that what she is thinking will never happen. The main character asks what she is talking about, and the girl says that something seems to be bothering Eva, and asks if the young lady is afraid of falling. The wolf only half agrees and says that she is, because she has never flown. At the same time, Ava thinks that the girl scared her. The main character says that for a moment she thought that Rachel could read minds. The girl just tells her not to worry, because she will always be on her sister's side. After that, he suggests enjoying the view of the sky together. The main character remembers her mother's words. The woman told her daughter that dragons are not as scary as she thought. A little girl asked if her mother had ever met one of them. The woman said that they were completely. Then Eva lays her head on the bed and says that means her mother doesn't know anything. The woman places her hand on her daughter's head and says that her great-grandmother told her that dragons are kind. The little girl says that it was a long time ago, and her mother, with a smile on her face, replies that at least the rumor about it survived until their time, and dragons are very gentle creatures. That's why the woman said about her daughter that if she meets a dragon, she should be kinder to him. The main character extends her hand and asks if Noel will hold her and Zion so that they don't fall. The dragon captain agrees, and the lady with white hair looks at all these landscapes. When they arrive at the castle, they are very surprised. Zion asks if they are in heaven. The main character says that it looks like it. She had imagined the south completely differently and could not believe that there were so many flowering plants there. A boy with white hair tells a young lady to look because something landed on his hand. The main game is not a butterfly state, and she has only seen them in books before. Insect flies away, and the boy with white hair runs after him. Eva worries about him and tells him not to jump because suddenly he will fall, but suddenly he crashes into someone. The little boy with white hair apologizes, and the man says that he knows how to apologize and take responsibility. The servant then places his hand on his head and asks if Song was doing well. The young lady realizes that it is the man, and the servant says that last time he failed to greet the girl properly. The man claims his name is Hopper and that he serves under the captain. He apologizes for being so late and asks for thanks for his help. The main character understands that she saw him in the novel, and he is a versatile person who can't stand wolves, although now the story is different from what she imagined, and the man seems friendly. But she still feels uneasy in his presence. Hopper says that if the young lady needs anything, he asks her to let him know. Eva says that if that's the case, then can she get a book in the form of a scroll, which is only available in the South. The man becomes a little wary and says that they have a library of scrolls, but now it will be difficult to get into it. The main character understands that he is still vigilant, but the girl understands that if she were in his place, she would also not have answered the stranger from the North's request for a scroll. The man says that the road must have been difficult and then snaps his fingers, after which the young lady is already taken away by two maids. He tells the girl to first take the antidote and change into lighter clothes that are suitable for the weather of the South. A little while later, the main character is already washed and well-dressed, looking at this mansion. Hopper says the head of the department went to deal with the backlog of cases. Ava thanks him because even though she is a stranger there, everyone treats her well. The man only smiles. He claims that the girl is the commander's companion, and the main character first lowers her eyes to the floor and is silent for a while. Then he tells her to just call her Eva. Hopper says that the young lady is too modest and asks if he dares to call her by her first name, but the girl says that it would really be more convenient for her. He understands that he should say that he is not the captain's companion, but the words just don't want to come out. Then the servant asks if he can ask why the young lady needed the library, because if she tells him, the guy can find her a couple of books. The main character says that in the North, she could not find books about the South, so when she found herself there, wants to read The Legend of Dragons to help Noel. The girl thinks whether she really intends to become the companion of the captain of dragons. Hopper says that it is clear to him now, and in fact, it would be enough for Noel to have the girl nearby. But knowing history is also good, and it will help to get used to the South, so he will take the young lady. The main character understands that she needs to be careful, because if she is discovered, then Zion will be in danger, and Noel too, because he has not yet found a real companion. The girl thinks that, unfortunately, she has poor control over her emotions. The young lady understands that she is hopeless. That same evening, Eva sits with books. She reads about the history of the southern Caspian continent. The book says that God rules the heavens, and destruction rules the world, while people rule the earth. Dragons, whose lives are close to immortality, descended into this world. At first, they could not get used to the new environment, but with the help of their wisdom and the red dragon, they managed to establish themselves safely in the south. However, soon the number of skirmishes between the proud and the dragons began to increase, and the beastmen began to suffer from this. So they asked the strongest red dragon to be their leader. He had a kind heart, so the guy took the weak under his wing. Meanwhile, some people and wolves mistakenly decided that dragons had taken over the south. The leader was injured when he fell for the evil trick of the humans, and the wolf took advantage of the situation and stole his heart. The first leader could not cope with the excess of his power with only one heart. His situation was dire, so the dragon went north to get the heart back, but they failed to find that Volga, and eventually the head of the dragons died, after which a war began between the north and the south. The entire country was destroyed during it, and the war ended thanks to the intervention of the chief of the mermaids from the west and the chief of the lions from the east. After the announcement that the wolf had sold his heart to a dragon hunter he had been working with, a second war broke out between the south and the human world. Because of all these events, the world of people and animals was divided, so it became impossible to restore good relations between the south and the north, and the location of the heart remained unknown. The main character wonders if this is all, because she hasn't found any clues. The girl wonders if Ava from the book could have influenced Noel's heat, because she was a wolf with that heart. But the young lady understands that everything cannot be so, otherwise she would not have died from Rachel's fire, because the dragon's fire cannot burn the heart of such a strong dragon as Noel. The more the main character thinks about it, the more confused she becomes, and the girl makes various guesses. A little while later, Rachel comes into the library and tells her sister that Zion fell asleep because he had a busy day today, but the girl only sees that Ava is sleeping. The little girl sits down on a chair and says that it looks like the young lady is very tired, but it is understandable to believe that only troubles have piled up, so it would be worth taking the main character to her chambers. But then the little girl comes up with a better plan. The girl thinks maybe it would be better to take Ava to the bridal room. The main character sees a dream where she was little. The girl wanted to go with her father through the forest. The boy takes one flower out of the ground and shows it to his daughter. He claims that it is a plant created by magic. The little girl is just angry at him and screams at him to hurry up and collect the grass as soon as possible because it is already frozen. The man only says with a smile that she is swearing again. The main character says that there is such a snowfall there, and they have to collect these herbs. Well, her father says that they need to return quickly. The little girl doesn't understand what happened because the snow suddenly stopped. She turns to her father and asks if he did this, and if he has such an ability. But the guy just looks at his hand in horror, after which the main character wakes up. The girl immediately jumps out of bed and thinks what kind of place this is and why she is wearing different clothes. The young lady gets out of bed and calls for her brother and Rachel, but someone says that the children are together in another room. When the main character turns around, she sees Noel there. The guy asks if she slept well, and the girl only asks in response why he is there. Then Noel replies that these are his chambers. Ava, shocked, asks if this is true, and then he apologizes and says he'll leave right now. The young man gets up from his desk and says everything's fine. It is only natural that she should be there, since everyone in the palace considers her to be the captain's companion. The boy claims that they have prepared separate rooms for her, and then he says that if she is uncomfortable, then he will go somewhere. But when he gets up, he screams in pain. The girl asks if he hurts somewhere, and Noel replies that everything is fine and he just has a slight fever. Then the main character grabs his hand and offers her help, after which the two of them sit on the bed. The young lady holds his hand and says that since they arrived in the south, the guy has not rested and has probably worked a lot. The dragon captain says that this is true, and he is very tired today, but he is all embarrassed and says that he is glad that Ava is there. The young lady does not understand what is happening because his face is red. The girl puts her hand to his head and says that Noel seems to have a fever, and then asks if he is definitely okay. The guy claims that's not why he blushed, but then decides not to say it anyway. So he claims that it seems to be a temperature issue, and takes Ava's hand in his, and a little embarrassedly asks if she would allow herself to be hugged. The main character screams, "What is he talking about?" The lady with white hair was already embarrassed by this, and Noel was only approaching her. He says that when the girl is around, all his thoughts get confused. The young man asks to stay like this for just a moment. The main character says that if it makes him feel better, then good. The girl thinks that perhaps he will be able to calm down in her arms and understands that it is just an embrace, because friends do that too. But the young lady notices that she can hear his heart beating hard and wonders why this is so. And also, could it be because of her? But if she is right, is it worth showing courage now? Ava turns to Noel and asks him to forgive her. The girl understands that this may turn out badly, but she still wants to know. The young lady asks the young man if he was curious why she is not in the form of a beast and lives in the north as she is. Eva wonders if Noel will like her if he finds out that the girl is a half-breed. But when the main character looks at his face, she sees surprise in the captain's eyes. She thinks about what to do now and understands that she asked this question in vain. The young lady asks if the guy is surprised. She apologizes and says that she is tired, and that is why she is talking nonsense. But when the girl tries to step back, she trips over her pajamas and falls on the captain. The main character is embarrassed. She didn't even think about what to do in such a situation. The girl says that it was an accident and apologizes. She claims that she will get up now. But the guy just hugs her. He says that the young lady is right, and he is curious. And then he adds that he wants to know everything about her, what she was like as a child, her favorite food, the thoughts that are dedicated to her, and perhaps she would like to keep silent about something, and therefore he will not force her. But whatever it was, his feeling wouldn't change. When I heard this, I started talking about myself. The girl says that when she was a child, she liked to spend time with her father. They made flowers from ice and played. The father was a man. Well, the main character thinks that he could control ice. Sometimes the spells didn't work, and the snow melted. She also studied medicinal herbs because of it. Noel smiled calmly and listened to Eva until he fell asleep, although the young lady could not admit that she was a half-breed. But the young man's smile seemed to say that he would accept her, no matter who the girl turned out to be. And it was a very emotional moment. Rachel is sitting with papers at this time. The little girl is considering candidates for the role of her sister's maid. After finding a suitable one, he tells the bird to tell the servants that this maid will work for her sister. But then Zion turns to her. The young man asks why Ruby isn't sleeping. The girl tells the boy with white hair that he has ears and a tail. Then he screams and quickly hides them. The lady with black hair says that she is worried about him, and that is why he can't sleep. And Zion says that it is too warm there, and that is why he is relaxed. Then the girl says that he needs to hide his ears and tail well. Then the boy asks where his sister went and where he is now. Rachel says that the sister is in her room, and from now on, Zion has his own room, so he shouldn't look for the young lady. The boy with white hair screams why he can't, and the girl replies that it is late, and it would be impolite to go to her now. Zion says that they always slept together, and Rachel replies that now she will have to learn to sleep alone. The boy with white hair says that in the north, they only had one room with a fireplace. The lady with black hair understands that she can't let Zion near these two, so she asks the boy with white hair if he wants to become an adult soon. The boy agrees and says that he will become as strong and muscular as his brother. Then Ruby says that he will have to follow the rules. She hands Zion a piece of paper and tells him to write. The boy with white hair does so. The first rule is that you can't go to your sister's at night. But then the boy with white hair, with tears in his eyes, says that he cannot sleep alone because he is afraid in the dark. Rachel says she knows, so the second rule is that when he's scared, he has to go to her room. She's across from him. Zion agrees, and the lady with black hair with a smile on her face thinks that the young man is so cowardly, but he said that he would protect her. The girl thinks what a blockhead he is, and yet, looking at the paper, Rachel realizes that he can write. The next morning, the main character wakes up in bed, but as soon as she opens her eyes, the first thing she sees is Noel's chest. The young lady immediately jumps out of bed in embarrassment, and the captain of the dragons asks if she woke up and if she slept well. After which, he says that if the girl does not object, then he will steal her time for a little while longer. After all, in the mornings, the temperature seems to rise. The young lady agrees. She remembers that yesterday she chatted too much and fell asleep, and in the morning she completely forgot that she was in his bed. Noel, just hugging her. He claims with a smile on his face that hugging her is the most pleasant thing. The main character thinks how loudly he speaks. Well, at this time, someone in the corridor screams, and Eva asks what happened. The dragon captain says that it looks like her maid has arrived, and tells this one to come in. Then a young lady with pink hair enters the room. Her name is Julia Karat, and from now on she will serve the mistress. The girl says that he hopes they will get along, and in her thoughts she adds that by order of Mistress Rachel, from this day on she will serve her. Since the young lady is a rabbit, her hearing is sharper than others, and the lady probably told her about this ability. Today was the first time she met her mistress, so she was a little nervous. Standing in front of the door, the maid recalled the words that her mistress had beautiful white curls that looked like snow. But then she heard the captain say that in the mornings the temperature seemed to rise. The maid had already managed to imagine all sorts of things after hearing the words about how hugs with Eva were the most pleasant thing. The maid was a little embarrassed, wondering if she could even listen to this. Now she introduces herself to her mistress and claims that it is an honor for her to serve her. The main character says that her name is Eva. Noel says that he will go and they will meet at the restaurant. The maid only thinks how beautiful the mistress is. The dragon captain asks the girl if she wants anything special, and the young lady says that she is not fully awake yet and is not very hungry. The guy says that she needs to eat well, especially on difficult days like yesterday. The maid, hearing this, is embarrassed and thinks what a sweet couple this is. When the main character starts eating, she is surprised by the amount of food on the table. She wonders if this is just breakfast, but it's not even lunch. Noel asks if this kind of food is to her taste. The young lady only asks with drool if she can get the recipe from the chef, and the guy replies that he will ask her, after which he asks if the girl used that balm, because he chose it himself, but he was not sure if she would like the aroma. Ava says that it is wonderful, and she uses such a thing for the first time. The guy says that he will prepare more flavors, so that she can use different ones depending on her mood. The young lady thinks that Noel also seems to use perfume, and it's no wonder that he always smells nice. The main character is even embarrassed by such thoughts. Noel says that Eva blushed deeply, and the girl screams that it is simply very hot there, but then decides to confess. And she says that she actually remembered last night. The dragon captain smiles. He approaches the young lady and asks her with a smile what happened then, because she was incredibly sweet and charming. The main character gets embarrassed and asks what he's talking about. She claims that she thought wrongly about completely different things. The guy thinks about what kind, and the girl says that she just liked his smell, that is, the aroma of perfume. The maids just cover their ears and say they didn't hear anything. At that moment, Zion bursts into the room, and Ava thinks she is saved. The boy with white hair runs up to his sister with a smile on his face. He says that he slept alone yesterday and asks what sister will say about it. The young lady thinks that he is a good man, and with his help, she avoided the disaster. She takes him onto her lap and asks if her Zion has become all grown up. Two servants with hairstyles on their heads run after the boy with white hair. They tell the master to be careful, and when they see Eva, they immediately bow down and wish her good morning. Zion says that these are his friends, and the girl awkwardly says what nice guys they are. Ruby runs into the room after them. She says that it is impossible to keep up with the boy with white hair, and he runs very fast. Or rather, it is she who runs slowly, and he cannot keep up with her. The young man apologizes, and Rachel walks up to her sister and spreads her arms as if expecting a hug, after which the main character sits her on her lap and says that her girl has also become more mature. Ruby smiles and says that it is nice to hear. A little girl asks if she slept well last night. The main character says yes, and asks what about her. Rachel says she did too, and Zion looks at the two and says that Ruby is cheating. The girl, with a smile on her face, continues and says that she thought that if her sister was not around, she would have nightmares. But last night the dreams were wonderful. The lady with white hair asks if it's true, because if so, then it's nice. Noel, watching all this, can't help but smile. He thinks how happy everyone is, and this is the first time he's seen Rachel smile like that since her parents left them. The young man with black hair thanks Eva and Zion in his thoughts for this. He understands that this girl makes everyone around her happy, and what he wanted before no longer interests him. The young man only wants Eva to become his wife, the only one who will be with him until the end of his life, his love forever. But suddenly, he hears someone's voice behind him, asking if it's true. And does Noel believe her? Because suddenly, the girl is lying to him. The dragon captain, hearing an unfamiliar voice, immediately turns around. But there is no one behind except the servant, who asks what happened. The young man with black hair turns around and breathes heavily, then says that everything is fine. The main character is also worried about him. She asks if Noel is okay. The guy apologizes with a smile and says that he was just thinking, and he himself wonders whose voice it was. He has a feeling that he has heard it somewhere before. At this time, the maids are gossiping in the kitchen. The main character's maid says that's why the captain was smiling so much today. The other maids say they can't believe it, The lady with pink hair asks if he did a bad job. And this morning, they were hugging each other so tightly. Then one of the maids cries out a little embarrassedly that no matter how curious Julia is, she can't eavesdrop on such things. The maid asks what's so special about this. It's good news. But suddenly the boss interrupts them. The woman asks who one must be to be able to manipulate the captain so easily. And then she hits Julia with a vegetable and asks if the maid is supposed to go down to the kitchen and if she is going to leave, and tells the girls to wash the dishes. The lady with pink hair says that they themselves asked her to tell them everything. She leaves and says that this is some kind of nonsense, because she is not a talkative person. The woman just looks at the table and says that there is a lot of food left, and maybe the Northerners are too picky because they didn't finish what they started. One of the maids turns to Maria and says that she is expected outside. The boss asks why, and the girl claims that Hopper is calling her. Then the woman goes outside. She asks if the man is going to praise her, and he replies that he is, because they really liked the food, and Maria did a good job, so he thanks her. The woman says that if that is so, then why haven't they finished eating so much? The servant says that the girl has been very tired for the last few days, so she hasn't had an appetite yet, and it seems she wanted to go to the kitchen and learn to cook like that, so Maria thanks him for telling her about it. She is a little embarrassed and says that they are lucky with the lady. At this time, several people wander through the forest. One of them asks how long it will be until the palace, and the other man in the robe says that there is still half a day left. It turns out to be the captain of the north with his servants. He throws off his hood and thinks that he will find Eva very soon. It's a warm, sunny afternoon outside, and Noel is still constantly busy, apologizing for keeping you waiting. The young lady says it's okay, and she didn't even know he had so much work. She realizes that Zion is caught up in his new friends, and Rachel is now inviting her sister to play together. The main character thinks that she likes the little girl more than she expected, and the girl claims that sister said that her magic is the best. Ava thinks she was afraid that their meeting would happen like in the novel, but now she only wishes happiness for the baby. Now Rachel shows her the highest place in the castle, from which the whole south is visible. A little later, she brings her little sister to the clearing and suggests having a picnic there. Ava understands that this was not the attitude towards Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf in the fairy tale, and perhaps they will become good friends. When they return from that tree, the main character smells a very delicious smell. Julia says that it comes from the kitchen, and she heard that there is turkey for dinner today. The young lady says it is wonderful and hopes in her mind that every day will be as peaceful. But suddenly, someone jumps out at her from behind the bushes and says that he has finally found Ava. It turns out that this is the captain of the north, and the main character wonders if it is possible to only dream of such peaceful days. She asks what the guy is doing and why he is in the south, and Rachel runs up from behind. The little girl uses her powers and angrily tells the boy to get away from her sister. He just smirks and says that she is the sister of the head of the south, who is watching him. He jumps back and screams that they fooled Eva and are still worried that he will be able to bring her to her senses. And this is disgusting and ridiculous. Rachel asks what he said and what else was fooled. Well, the guy doesn't let her finish and uses his powers. The main character is shocked by this. She screams Rachel's name. The captain of the wolves shakes his hands. He says that even though the girl is a dragon, she is still small and does not realize her involvement in the rebellion. Ava screams that he is crazy and asks what he did to the girl. The servant says that she is the younger sister of the head of the south, and if he finds out. But Ed says that she just lost consciousness, and it will not harm her. After which, the guy turns to Eva. He approaches her with a smile on his face. He says that it is scary in the south, so he suggests returning to the north as soon as possible. The main character is shocked by such words, and the maid immediately grabs the man and screams for her mistress to run away from there. Ed just sighs, and then one of the North captain's servants pushes her away, and more servants avoid him at the sound. They scream out what's going on and what that sound is coming from the back door. Ed just says how mad it is, and he orders his ward to clean up there, and in the meantime, he will take Eva away. The main character only turns to him furiously, and then she claims that she will finish him off. The guy is surprised by such an answer, but then sighs again and says that they fooled her well. Then he uses his powers and tells Eve to be patient for a little while, because it's time to say goodbye to these scoundrels. The main character just comes up to him and grabs him by the neck. She furiously claims that no one deceived anyone. And then he uses his ice powers and says, "What a heartless guy." At this time, rumors are already running to these two. There is dust in the air, so they don't understand what happened there. But when the woman looks, she sees her mistress. She, looking at the lying Rachel and the captain of the wolves, asks what happened there. A little while later, Ed opens his eyes, and the first thing he sees is Noel's servants. They say they're to wake up. But when the guy looks at them, he sees that he is tied up, and Eva is standing in front of him. The girl asks if the servants can leave them alone. They ask if the mistress is sure, and say that it is better for them to stay with her. But the girl says that if something goes wrong, she will call them immediately. Then she claims she has some things to sort out. The North captain asks why things turned out this way, and the girl realizes that she didn't even try to explain the situation to him. She used ice magic to finish him off. Something got in her way, or rather, it was Ed's ability, and it seemed the girl had encountered something similar before. That day, she first met Noel, but she realizes that it doesn't matter now. One of the servants claims that they will wait outside and let the mistress call if something happens. The main character understands that, first of all, she needs to deal with this guy. She bends down to him, and he claims that this is the first time they have spoken like this, since usually the young lady would run away from him. The girl asks why he is pursuing her if he hated her. Well, the young man answers that it is not so. Eva asks what he is talking about, and the captain of the North says that he sincerely apologizes for what he did when they were children, and he understands why the girl blames him. Ed looks up and says that if the young lady could forgive and give him a chance, but the main character interrupts him and says that he doesn't want to, because why would she need it? Because even if every wolf begs for her forgiveness, she still won't return to the North. Because after everything she's been through, this place is like hell to her. And because she is half wolf, no one went looking for her father when he went missing. So she had to use the herb search as an excuse to go everywhere looking for him. And her mother had to give birth without a nurse or doctor, after which she got sick and died. The girl asks how Ed can ask her to go back to the North, and if he feels sorry for losing his toy. The guy claims that it's not like that, and he never thought about her that way. He swears that something like this will never happen again, and if the young lady wants, he will find all her offenders and then bring them, including himself. The captain of the North claims that he is ready to do anything for Eva, but the girl only looks at him with an empty gaze, and then she says that her brother didn't even remember their parents, so he often asked if they had abandoned them. The young lady said that they were really looking forward to his arrival, but they had to go far away for work, and the boy with white hair only needs to sleep for 1,000 nights, after which they will return. When time passed, he stopped asking about them. The main character thought that he was counting those nights, but it turned out that everything was wrong, and Zion himself understood everything. The young lady, with tears in her eyes, says that the boy with white hair realized that they are no longer in this world. She asks if Ed said that he would do anything for her, and then he asks if he will save her parents, and if her brother will be able to see them. The guy just bows his head and doesn't know what to answer, and then apologizes. But Eva says it's too late, and then gets up. She says she didn't tell him this to apologize. The girl claims that if the captain of the North really feels even a little sorry, then let him forget about her and never show his face. After these words, the main character leaves, and leaves the young man with gray hair alone. But when the girl comes out, she sees Rachel next to her. She immediately comes up to her and says that the girl has woken up. She also asks how the little girl is feeling, and is she hurt? The lady with black hair says that she is completely fine, and the main character looks at her, and he doesn't understand what happened, because the baby has a slightly strange expression on her face. At this time, the maid with a bandage on her head runs up to the mistress. She is all worried about her. Therefore, she asks a lot of questions about whether the young lady is safe, whether she is injured. The maid says she almost went crazy when she found out that her mistress asked to be alone with that wolf, and asks if the guy offended the mistress. Ava only tells him to stop bothering her. Then the boss comes running. The woman takes the maid away and says that she is very sorry for her colleague. The lady with pink hair only screams that she should have protected her mistress. The main character turns to Rachel and says that they need to rest too, but when she looks at the place where the girl was, she is already gone. The matter was settled, and the belated news of what had happened left the dragons furious. Now they had a good reason to destroy the North, but Rachel stopped them, and Ed disappeared before they could come for him, leaving only a handwritten letter of apology. Now, the main character understands that she does not want to get involved in this matter anymore since everything has been settled, but she does not understand why Rachel stopped the dragons. The young lady wanted to ask her this question somehow carefully and find out that she has not been exposed yet. But for some reason, the little girl was behaving strangely, and the young lady really didn't like the expression on her face. The maid turns to her mistress. The main character asks if she has already returned to work, and then he says that Julia needs to rest a little more. But the lady with pink hair claims that she is completely fine, and Maria treated her well, and also that just lying around is terribly boring. The girl looks at the floor next to them, where the cat is sitting, and claims that recently, this little one with white hair has been visiting them, and the girl constantly feeds him, but this cat appeared when the girl first arrived to them. The main character asks if he is a beast man, and the maid says that maybe he is, but she doesn't know how to talk to him, because even if he is a beast man, he is still very small. Then the maid remembers another important detail, and asks if the mistress could not tell about him. The main character asks why, and the girl replies that if anyone finds out that she is taking care of an unknown kitten, they will immediately chase her away. The young lady turns around and sadly says that it is true. The maid wonders if she said something wrong. But then, looking at his mistress, he understands that this is not the case, and maybe the girl is simply tired of her daily routine or misses her native land. She runs away and asks the lady to wait a little. A moment later, she returns. But not empty-handed, the girl holds 2 glasses and a bottle of strong liquor in her hands. The main character asks what it is. The maid answers that it is a special and expensive wine. The young lady asks if it is alcohol, and the girl comes up to her and says that when there are too many thoughts, you can forget. And drinking helps with this best. The main character wants to object, but when she looks at this bottle, she begins to wonder whether she should save this bottle for later. There is also an interesting fact about this world, because even though it is a world of beastmen, there are also ordinary animals there, and most often, beastmen take the form of people, but there are also those who retain animal form. That same evening, the dragon captain explores the land near those boxes. Looking at his hand, he realizes that there is no trace of magic there, but he heard that Eva pacified the head of the north. However, the guy thinks that no matter how strong she is, it is quite difficult for a half-breed to resist a pure-blooded wolf, and wonders how this is even possible. And there was no longer a single trace of magic left, and they seemed to have completely disappeared. But suddenly, the guy remembers the moment of their meeting. He understands that even though the girl's father was a human, she can use ice magic. Although the girl is not so good at this, sometimes her charms quickly dissipate. So the guy wonders if his guess is right. He tells Hopper to prepare a secret letter, who asks who the recipient will be, and the captain of the North claims that he will write a letter to the King of Men. The servant is a little surprised by this, and then he obeys his master. When Noel is about to leave, another servant approaches him. He apologizes for disturbing them, but the fact is that something happened to the gentleman's companion. That same evening, the main character and the maid were already sitting at a picnic. The girl claimed that when you drink alcohol, it is important to choose the right place. The same cat was sitting next to them, and I asked Julia if she could ask her something. The maid said that of course she would help in any way she could. Then the young lady asks how the girl would approach if she knew she was going to be killed. The maid says that this is a very serious question, and usually in such a situation, a person would probably hide somewhere. The young lady thinks that she was worried in vain and needs to leave there as soon as possible. But Julia goes on and says that she would try to fight. She claims that running away from fate is not a solution to the problem because she knows what will happen in the future. The maid pours wine into a glass and says that she would like to try to look fate in the face so as not to regret anything. After which, he says that her answer probably seemed too frivolous to the lady, although one can avoid going head-on to fight and try to avoid hitting from the side. Then the main character drinks a whole glass of this wine at once, and after that, thanks her maid. She claims that Julia helped her a lot. The young lady ponders why she only thought about how to avoid fate, because if she and Cyan had left, what would have become of Noel and Rachel without a companion? But these two will face the tragedy that happened in the original novel, and the girl thinks whether this is the best outcome of events. After all, she wants a different future for them. But suddenly, the cat jumps up and screams. The lady with pink hair asks what happened to the baby, and then sees Maria. The woman furiously says that she couldn't figure out where the wine had disappeared to. She grabs Julia and says that this is all her doing. Another maid comes to the mistress and asks if she liked the wine. She also says that this is their head cook. Then the main character says that the wine is very sweet and she doesn't know who infused it, but the aroma is wonderful. The woman lets the maid go and says that this means the mistress knows how to drink alcohol, and if she wants, the woman will recommend her a better drink and suitable snacks. The main character agrees, and now the servant informs his master that his companion has become very drunk. The young lady is gesturing with a glass of strong drink and having fun. She screams that it's true, and the plot development along the lines of, "My real brother, whom I lost 10 years ago, turned out to be the one I almost fell in love with after going through numerous trials," is very popular. The servants claim that this is unbelievable and ask the mistress what happened next. The main character thinks for a while, and then she asks not to address her so formally and to call her by her first name. In the atmosphere of merriment and general cordiality, when everyone is absorbed in alcoholic fun, the servants address the young girl as Mistress Eve, strengthening the feeling of friendship and camaraderie that reigns among everyone at that moment. Eva, turning to them, internally regrets that, despite the informal setting, they still address her using the formal madam, but she realizes that this is inevitable and accepts it as a given. At this moment, the main character notices Noel. Upon his appearance, the servants, overcome with slight fear and respect, immediately fall to their knees, demonstrating their respect to the master. However, Noel, not wanting any extra ceremony, brushes off the greetings and asks a question, trying to find out who got the young lady so drunk, causing him to worry about her condition. Ava, ignoring his concerns, offers him a glass of wine, assuring him that the drink is really very tasty and deserves to be tried. At this time, the chef approaches him and shares his observations, saying that, apparently, Ava really liked the wine they made. But in the end, everything got out of control, which makes him a little embarrassed. She adds that they tried to keep the lady from drinking too much, and if Noel is looking for someone to blame for this situation, then she is ready to take full responsibility, showing her readiness to answer for what happened. But the young lady only hugs Maria and tells Noel not to dare touch her. The guy is a little shocked by this, and the young lady asks if he knows how difficult it is to cook food, and they have to eat everything that the cooks have prepared with such difficulty. But then she turns around and says that she would like to have another glass. But the young man with black hair takes the glass from her hands. He takes the main character by the hand and claims that drinking a lot is bad for your health, and that she will feel ill for several days. Despite the fact that the main character does not pay attention to the words of her interlocutor, she continues to hold her hand on Noel's chest and is surprised to note how unusually warm and pleasant his touch is, while the servants whisper that apparently the girl really is Noel's faithful companion. Although the young man tries not to show his embarrassment, internally he feels a strong excitement, and even some confused excitement, realizing that the girl may have overindulged a little with alcohol, and suggests that she retire to a room so that she can rest and come to her senses. However, the main character, ignoring his offer, slowly falls asleep, realizing that she has not allowed herself such luxury as drinking for a long time. And now alcohol seems incredibly sweet and enveloping to her, and sleep will seem the best way to cope with its effects. But suddenly, the young lady begins to develop wolf ears and a tail, which comes as a complete surprise to all the servants present, who scream in horror and bewilderment, realizing that their mistress is a she-wolf, something they never expected to see. One of the servants, not hiding his surprise and excitement, asks how this could have happened to Madame Eva. But Noel, wanting to keep the situation under control, sternly orders him to remain silent and not to spread the word about what happened. In a serious and decisive tone, he declares that he will later announce to everyone the events of this evening, but warns that if anyone present decides to do this before him and reveal the secret, it will be bad. The captain of the Northern Lands, expressing his rage and dislike for those who break the rules, declares that anyone who dares to break this rule and spread the information before his permission will